Right, hello guys. Today we have Luke from Tech Circus, an early Earth 2 player. Luke, do you want to give us a bit of your backstory and how you got into Earth 2 and what you've been doing so far?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on. So I got into Earth 2 because my brother got into it a week before I did, and he snapped up a load of great property. This was at the very early stages. I think it was December. God, what was it? Was it 219 or 220? Um,
2019. Yeah.
yeah, it was very, very early. I think the some people got in a little bit before that and got the American tiles, but we got in very, very early. And I took his advice on it and went on and started buying some tiles and yeah, been hooked ever since.
Okay. So how much did you initially put in at Earth 2? Did you kind of go all in or did you just grab a little bit or?
I started off with £500.
Okay, that's not bad.
Bought a load of stuff, but the tiles were 15 cents each. So I got a lot of stuff for my £500 at the time. And I invested like really heavily in Africa and places that people weren't even looking at or even considering, which were at the lowest value at the time.
I'm guessing that's paid off over the years, well, over the time since Earth 2 launched as well. Have you had a fair bit of lit and kind of growth from that?
Yeah, it's gone crazy. I mean, I think my portfolio, the estimated value is very hard to,
Yeah,
calculate, specifically because I bought lots of Paris and London tiles and landmarks and, things that are probably worth a bit more than what they're
the
actually,
standard prices.
they're all tier ones. I think I'm around $40,000 at the moment in land. So it's been growing really rapidly. I've made a massive profit on it so far.
And have you put any in since the 500 or was that literally all you've put into your portfolio?
There were little bits, but not a lot more. Probably about a couple of thousand more. So it's been substantial profits on it for me.
Still a huge increase. Right, so I'm just going to get straight into the questions now that we've got your kind of initial Earth 2 story out of the way. Right, so what is your own background? Where did Tech Circus come from? And what were you doing before that?
Sure, yeah. So I've always been an entrepreneur, I would say. I've ran businesses all my life. Before doing Tech Circus, I ran various businesses, but the one like straight before Tech Circus was a recruitment company.
Okay.
And we specialize in tech. And then I was making good money and, having a good time there. But my real passion was like educating people and talking about tech. And so I moved over into the events industry and started Tech Circus.
Okay. So when was Tech Circus actually first set up? Was Enter the Metaverse one of the first things you guys did?
No, we've been around for 7 years.
7 years? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, we're big in the Web 2 side of things. So we do lots of huge conferences in the Web 2 side of things.
Yeah.
And then actually, this is something that no one knows, but I set up on Earth 2, and then it made me think, okay, let's set up the Web 3 area of Tech Circus. So Earth 2 created the Web 3 side of things for me. It wasn't just Earth 2. There were other projects I was on, but I was more heavily trading and playing around with Earth 2 at the time. And it was almost like a research project for me. I put the money in to understand things, not really at first to make money on it. I wanted just to understand what was going on. So yeah, that led to me becoming a kind of a crazy events organization around Web3. We've got 10 Web3 conferences now. So yeah, it was it's more than just, the investment I got from Web2. It's also all of the stuff that happened to the company after as well.
It's pretty awesome that Earth 2 could inspire you to do that. I was looking through all the different events that you had on the website just last night, having a little bit of a nosy before I had you on, and I can see it's kind of a lot of it is moving more towards the kind of the Web3 kind of side of things.
Yeah, that's right. So it's very interesting, but at that point in time when Earth 2 started, the NFT boom was just about happening or just starting, and metaverses were starting to take off. So it was kind of just that time when there wasn't many conferences in that area, and we came in and seized the market and made the biggest ones.
Yeah, that makes sense. How did you first get into? You've kind of just briefly covered this actually. How did you first get into the metaverse? Was it Earth 2? Have you been interacting with this world before you even found Earth 2?
Earth 2 was the first thing that I'd got into, but prior to that, all of the cryptocurrencies from 2008, I've been investing in cryptocurrencies and different projects, but Earth 2 was the first and only metaverse that I've invested in.
It's the only one still to date as well. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. tell a bit of a lie. It depends what you define as a metaverse. I was involved in all the blockchain games, all of the NFT, Alien Worlds, Green Rabbit. They all call themselves metaverses. But I mean, you know, if you look at the big ones, the Decentralands and the sandboxes and whatnot, Earth 2's the one that I've chosen.
Okay, I'm impressed with that. I thought you would have been in a few, if I'm honest. Right. So this one is, I know you're the only person who has one-on-one interviewed Shane so far. What was it like interviewing Shane? I remember you said at the time that you had to cut a lot of it out just to get it down to kind of watchable size video. Was there any gems that you kind of cut out or you couldn't include or anything?
Yeah, so the Shane interview was a strange one. I messaged him for months, like 6 months to get that.
Yeah.
But we're used to that. I've got a team. We've been doing this for 7 years. We get Google and Facebook to speak at all of our events. No offense to the Web3 world, but it was a new area, and the likes of Shane weren't the most challenging people I've ever tried to get into our conferences to date. So Shane, yeah, the interview was really good. It actually lasted for an hour and 15 minutes, I think.
Okay.
And I had to cut off 45 minutes of it.
Yeah.
I wanted to let the whole, you know, the whole thing out afterwards on YouTube, as you know, actually, because of then Shane, just before the event said, oh, I don't want this on YouTube. And I couldn't put it on YouTube afterwards, and I couldn't distribute it to any of the people either, because he requested not to very last minute, which is a bit of a shame. But the reality is I edited it myself, and the part that you saw was all the interesting bits.
Yes.
The rest of it was about Shane's upbringing and like who he was, and about like where he went to school and what like happened in North Korea, South Korea, when he went there, and you know, he was doing professional gaming and stuff. It was interesting, but there wasn't anything there that was like, wow, you know, this is game changing. I don't think it's much that, you know, anyone hasn't seen before. He talked quite a lot about his charity work as well, which you know, it was really interesting, but I cut it out because of, I think people were more interested in the actual platform stuff.
I would absolutely love to know kind of about Shane's background and stuff. I guess it is kind of a very hardcore Earth 2 following who would want to see that side of things. But yeah, I would absolutely love to hear about his professional gaming and the stuff he's doing outside of Earth 2 and his upbringing and stuff like that. I think it would kind of humanize him more. Yeah, it'd be good.
That was the idea, but I had a 30-minute slot of the conference, and it was just too much. I just couldn't fit it in, and unfortunately we couldn't do it afterwards. And because of all of the things going on YouTube at the time, I think he was nervous about it getting leaked, and it did get leaked. Literally the day after, they used it in all of their videos, the anti-Earth 2 YouTubers, and it's sad really, but that's what happened, you know. So he was right to be a bit cautious about leaking it onto YouTube.
No, I completely understand why I didn't want to share, because it was like right in the middle of when all the scam tubers were going wild and stuff. So I completely get that. But if you can give us a private showing of the full thing at some point, I certainly wouldn't complain about that. Right, so this is kind of a similar theme to the last question. Does Tech Circus have any future plans to collaborate or interview Shane in the future, or work with Earth 2 in any sort of way?
Yeah, we do. I mean, like, we're going to reach out to him to speak at London events. Yeah, the London events look like if he wants to come and speak at them, he can, but obviously he's got to fly over from Australia.
Yeah.
So that might be challenging. Online, I'll definitely invite him again. So we're creating an Enter the Metaverse London version and a blockchain gaming conference in the end of November this year. So I'll be inviting them. It depends.
So is that going to be a physical one rather than an online one like the last one?
It'll be physical. There might be an element of hybrid where people can watch it online. But we're doing quite big events in London for the Web3 at the moment. In central London, we just did the Global NFT Summit in London. It was really successful. So hopefully we can get them across with the other metaverse leaders.
Shane did say he wanted to come across at some point again anyway, because he had to cancel his last trip. So if he times it right for when you guys are doing that, that might be ideal.
It's all about timing. You know, last time when I got him, I think it was just the right time when they were about to release some stuff, and yeah, got quite lucky really to get that interview due to the timing.
Yeah, just call a little gap in his appointments. Right. This is quite a big one for F2. And you know a lot about the metaverse industry, so hopefully you've got some good insight on this. What would you say is the biggest challenge Earth 2 is facing either now or in the future?
It's a really big question and a good one. The biggest challenge that they're facing, I mean, it's almost a negative question, and I'd probably switch it to the positives straight away. Is they don't have as many challenges as everybody else. They have a
Okay.
huge user base
Yeah.
of people. They have lots of utility. They have gameplay, which is engaging, that people can actually come in and play with the system and do the resources and all the other stuff that they're putting out there in the ecosystem. The thing that they don't have a challenge, or they won't have a challenge with, is finding corporate partners. Because corporate partners that I work with, and I work with a lot of them, they all want to invest in the metaverse. So a lot of people have been very vocal about, oh, there isn't any big partnerships in E2. But I do events where we have Sandbox and we have Upland. They physically come and they pitch their products and they meet people at these events.
Uh-huh.
The last one that I did, I introduced Apple to one of them. So there's huge capabilities. I say I did, the company did.
Yes.
I want to take the credit for it. But yeah, we introduced Apple to them. So there's a lot of amazing things going out there. Lots of partnerships that want to happen, and Earth 2 is going to be inundated with offers when they actually decide to release their stats and get people involved. So the challenges for Earth 2 at the moment is to get out there, to get it done, get it finished, because at the moment it's still not a product. And they've got the users, they just need to come true to their promises. And if they do, then it's going to be huge.
Yeah, I completely get that. And to be fair, people saying there's no partnerships there. Shane's even been talking about when he was going to be coming to London, he was going to be meeting with a bank anyway. So we know there's at least some in place, or at least there's some discussions going on there.
The biggest problem with the metaverse, I speak to lots of people currently, and I do keep it, you asked at first, why aren't you investing in other metaverses? I do try and keep it impartial most of the time. I guess Earth 2 is a bit of an exception.
Yeah.
But I speak to Decentraland, and the problem isn't partnerships. It's never partnerships. They've got too many partnerships, too many people. They cannot keep up with it. They've got queues of people waiting to partner.
Yeah.
The problem is getting people to actually go on the platform. And that's what they struggle with. There's no engagement.
We don't have that issue.
We don't have that issue, and that's why Earth 2 looks like it's going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on.
It's quite a good way to turn it. Yeah, I thought you were just going to kind of a bit of a political answer at first, but no, it's actually, yeah, I like that. It's quite good. Just been through that one. You've kind of covered this one as well, actually. What are your favorite Web3 and Metaverse projects so far?
Yeah, I really like the Sandbox, although I'm not invested in it. I like what they stand for. I like what they're doing. I like what they're creating. There's a lot of stuff in Web3 that are copycats and people that are just shilling to make money. There's a lot, and I can tell you from meeting them and doing events with them, they're there to get new customers most of the time, because they don't have customers. They advertise in places in order to get more customers. So there's very few projects that I really admire, if I'm being totally honest, but a few of the metaverses, Sandbox, I think is particularly good. I really like a couple of the other ones. Somnium Space is really cool, but they don't have many users.
I haven't looked into that.
3D, very cool thing that they're doing. There's lots of games and stuff that I enjoy playing, metaverse games, and I've enjoyed. Yeah, I would say that Web3 at the moment is very much in its sort of like very early stages, and I think that I enjoy playing and experimenting with some of the early concepts, and some of them might become really interesting projects for the future.
Yeah, that's fair. No problem at all. Where do you see yourself in the future in regards to Earth 2? Do you think you'll still be playing? Is it purely an investment? What is your future plans for Earth 2?
Yeah, I like to think, and I'm sure we all do, and you might find this a bit strange. I run quite a large company. We've got global events now. But I like to think that Earth 2 will become my main asset in the future. If Earth 2 does really well and becomes the global phenomenon, and it's across every news channel, I have these sort of crazy imaginary kind of dreams about how Earth 2 is going to be the next big thing, and I think we all did when we signed up. If it does, then yeah, I'd like to think it will become one of my major investments in my portfolio of stuff that I invest in. The thing about Earth 2 at the moment is that it's just so early, and people don't understand how early it is. I cannot emphasize enough how early they are. They've got so much to go ahead with. And like I said, they haven't even reached out to partnerships. They haven't done, I'll tell you something that people find really interesting.
Okay.
So I spoke to every CEO of every metaverse out there, Sandbox, Decentraland, every single one of them. You know, we've spoke to them at one point or another. I spoke to most of the big platforms in Web3, and I've asked them all, do you know Earth 2? And not one of them has said yes. Not
Really?
one
Okay.
knows who Earth 2 is. That's how early we are. So if the biggest competitors don't even know that their competition is there, and it's got, what is it, how many 100 million tiles is it?
I'm not sure how many tiles sold, but the last number of users I remember hearing was 200,000.
Yeah, something like that. You know, like the competitors don't even know. That's how it is. So I believe that at the moment we're in a crazy early stage, and we're kind of like this hidden thing that's going to pop out of nowhere and surprise everyone very soon.
Earth 2 have still not even sent like a newsletter out to the users to remind them of anything either. So I think they're kind of keeping that to blow everything up at once when E2V1 launches or something, or maybe it's when the crypto launches.
When I met Shane and I spoke to him, he genuinely was trying to stunt growth. He was genuinely trying to build and stop any promotion at all. He didn't even really want to do the interview with us because he didn't want any more traction. He didn't want anyone to invest. They've got too many people investing, and they don't have enough capability, or at the time they didn't have enough capability to deal with support issues, to deal with the stuff. And he wanted to deliver on the promise. They've got abundance of money, abundance of players. They've got everything you need to run a successful business. They just need some more time to build it. And we've been waiting patiently ever since. But yeah, hopefully it will come to fruition at some point.
I think we kind of are very much almost there at the point of where we're going to get the big release. And as soon as we do have kind of E2V1, it's going to start snowballing from there, because we'll have the platform to play on, we'll have the Essence launch, we'll have the gamers starting to come in for the kind of free-to-play elements and stuff. And I think all of that's just going to hit like a bomb. It's literally just going to be, we won't know where to go, what to do. We'll have literally too much to do, but it's just getting to that point in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the way it's going to be flowing. And as soon as they get some utility and some things going, it's just going to blow up. It's going to be so big. I've got some crazy predictions for what's going to happen, but maybe they'll cover those in the next question. I won't answer it too early.
Well, we're about to move into community questions, which are kind of far more detailed and technical than mine. So we'll start with that. The first one is one that you actually commented on my Twitter. It's from Moby, and he is saying, how is Earth 2 perceived by the Web3 community? You've actually just covered this as well.
We just covered this already, so nobody knows about Earth 2. Every time I go to an event, I personally talk to everybody about Earth 2, and I'm always like, top tip, go and put some, go buy some land. It's the only one that I feel confident enough to say to people, it's the ones that invest in, where they would, where they might do well in it. I always say, don't invest too much or whatever, give it a tiny bit of investment. But yeah, I think that nobody in the Web3 world knows Earth 2 at the moment. I genuinely haven't met anybody at any of my events that's ever heard of Earth 2, other than people.
That still really, really shocks me, to be honest, especially when it's the competitors. You'd think that, I know Earth 2 is kind of, they're not doing advertising and stuff, but you'd think they'd be doing market research on what else is out there and what they're doing and stuff. I'm genuinely shocked.
Yeah, me too. I was shocked as well. And I've spoken to, William Quigley, the CEO of Wax. I've spoken to Wax, the guys that own Sandbox, all of these people. Nobody knew. Bosun Protocol, I spoke to the other day, the CEO, he had no idea what Earth 2 was. They're the biggest e-commerce metaverse protocol in the world. So like, these massive companies haven't heard of them yet. So I think that they really are focusing on the building and not the partnerships at the moment, from what
that makes sense. I'm quite shocked about the Wax one you've just said as well, because there's even tons of the third-party Earth 2 NFTs that have been built on Wax as well. Yeah, so that's even more of a shock.
It was a year ago or so when I spoke to him, maybe, things have happened since. I know, bear in mind, some of these conversations were, months.
It's fair point.
They might have heard since.
Okay, no problem. Next is from Earth 2 Explorer, and he is asking, have you heard any talk in the industry to bring holograms to the market, or has that tech had its day and gone?
Holograms? I personally don't think there's much talk about holograms that I've heard of. I think what he means is like when Tupac was on stage at Coachella or whatever, and is that type of hologram thing? Yeah, I think it's something that's nice for events, but yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not too sure about it.
Yeah, there's not an awful lot of practicality for a day-to-day kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Next, we have two from Yena, and she is asking, what do you think Earth 2 will look like 5 years from now? Do you think they're going to swallow everything like today's Google?
Yes, I do. I think Earth 2, obviously being a bit of a fanboy myself, but I think that Earth 2 has the capability to become the biggest metaverse out there by a country mile. And I mean, it's going to absolutely, yeah, crap on everybody else. It's so big. It's got so much utility. It's got so much tech behind it. I've not seen anything else out there. So if there is going to be some sort of metaverse out there and a player-owned one, unlike Meta, then I think Earth 2 will be in the contention to be the metaverse.
Yeah, I get that. You're kind of getting, like, the passion you're speaking about is getting me fired up again. It's kind of getting us reliving the early days of when I first discovered Earth 2, and it's making us think of all the potential that it can do and where it can go and stuff. Yena's next question it's a bit of an odd one. I'm guessing this kind of got lost in translation a bit. What do you learn from Shane?
I'll tell you what I learned from Shane speaking to him personally off camera, which he's very nervous. He's not like a really confident kind of charismatic CEO that you'd expect. He's a geek. He's a gamer. He's somebody that's authentic. He really cares about the players. He's got a really big heart. Genuinely spoke to him offline, and he's when somebody starts an interview, they sometimes act differently to then all of a sudden pop up into this persona. He's very much a creative, geeky introvert, and I don't think that I think that he'll get media trained to speak on stage and stuff eventually, and he's obviously doing more and more of it, but I don't think it comes naturally to him. So that's what I've learned from Shane. About Shane is probably the best thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of us could tell he wasn't naturally an extrovert. I feel he's peeing on that because I've kind of done it myself on here a bit, and you do kind of gradually get used to it, and you can see Shane's kind of getting used to the limelight a bit now as well, because he's definitely improved as the years have gone on.
Just to count that, he's a genius as well. So he's an absolute genius. And when I spoke to him, I was mesmerized by how humble he was, how smart he was. He was very humble but very, very smart. He knows what he's talking about.
Switched on. Yeah. Okay. Next we have Viking, and he is asking, what has been your overall plan for duels, holo buildings, and T2 tiles over the last 12 months or so?
Good question. I mean, I got in early, as I said before. So I did, my strategy was all around buying premium land. So I sold all of the stuff and flipped stuff to go and get lots of central Paris and central London and landmarks and things that I thought would be, would have high footfall. That was my strategy. I suppose because I run an events company, I know that it's all about marketing and where you are. I also invested a lot and a lot of time in EPLs. And I got really good EPLs to try and get the traffic going to my pieces of land in the future. In terms of the jewels, I've got loads of jewels, and I'm slotting them all to get as much essence as possible, like everybody else, and crafting them. I did sell them all originally to buy more land, and then I flipped that around, and now all my lit's going into jewels, and I'm buying them really cheap. Okay. And it's worked quite well for me. I sold them high and bought them low. Got loads of really good premium land as a consequence. Holo buildings I haven't done, which is I feel really bad about. It's just so annoying. I should do it, but I haven't done it because I'm just too busy. I literally barely have time in the day to sit there doing these things. Sometimes on a Sunday morning I wake up early and I'll just quickly craft some jewels and plug them in when I've got time. What was the other? Was there something else on this there?
No, I think you pretty much covered his question there. I think you're good. Holo buildings, though, you can literally flip those out in about 20 seconds if you just do one cube, just stretch it out, set the size to change the price for what you want it, and you can pop them out quite fast.
T2s was the last one, actually, and I'll tell you what my strategy is on that is not to buy many. I think when you get T2s, everyone will be upgrading them for T1s. So my advice to coming in would be go on the market and buy T1s now, because of the price of essence will be very high once you're trying to convert into T1s. And I think the use cases and utilities of T2s will be less than T1s personally. I have bought loads of resource focused ones like gold and stuff, just 2,000 or 3,000 of them just because I didn't have any in my T1s.
Yeah, that makes sense. Right, we're going to move on to Dr. Vince Dime, and he is saying, compared to other Web3 projects, how many people is working on Earth 2 in your opinion? And do you think the development of the project so far is fast, slow, or average?
Here's a little thing that I tell you, it's a bit of a secret. So I still talk to Earth 2 every now and again. They ask me questions about things. I can't really describe what. Nothing, nothing crazy, just like, Luke, do you know where we can find some developers or something like that? The odd note from them. And the amount of people that get CC'd into that email that aren't on the website or aren't visible is unbelievable. Shane is not the person that's doing everything. Even when I went to interview Shane, there's 4 or 5 other people that are unknown that I didn't know existed that are doing all the communications for him and doing the partnerships and all of that kind of stuff. So I spoke to 3 or 4 completely separate people that I didn't know existed. So I can only imagine that Earth 2 has a lot of people that we don't know about. I don't know how many, but they're obviously hiding them for some reason or another. Maybe they're scared of them getting, threatened by YouTubers, something. But
I completely understand why they wouldn't put all the stuff on the website after kind of the abuse and stuff that was coming in from not just the scam tubers, but the people who watched the scam tubers at the time. Even their fan base was coming over and giving insults and threatening people and doxing people and doing all sorts of stuff. So yeah, I can get why they're not putting them on.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, even when I did my conference, I was told by people, don't do it because you might get attacked.
Yeah.
But I don't care. I think it's time for Shane to get a bit of limelight and show who he really is. I already kind of got the inkling of what was going on because I could see it by analyzing Earth 2 quite closely. But yeah, we did get a bit of stuff from people. There was a few videos made of us and some of our sponsors were included in them. So a bit of a risk, but we took it.
Yeah, I noticed you'd managed to get most of those taken down after the fact as well. Kind of got them done for copyright infringement or using your content or something like that.
I didn't actually do it for any of the people that put it out there. I just didn't touch it because I didn't want to, get involved in it. But there was people that were taking the whole video and putting it online, and because of what Shane said, then I had to say, look, we can't do that.
Okay, that's fair enough. No, I get that. Next, it's another one from Dr. Vince Time, actually. I watched your interview made by, he's saying it was made by Earth 2 News. I'm not sure if he just noticed it on there originally or something, but I think he's getting a bit mixed up there. Last year, and was wondering if your ideas about Shane or E2 have changed since then. So have your ideas or opinions changed in the last year?
So what he's referring to is I did an interview with Earth 2 News prior to the release of the actual conference footage.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the last time I had an interview with somebody. So maybe that's what he's referring to. Ideas have not changed about Shane or Earth 2. I'm just sitting patiently like everybody else. And I think everybody has got a much better vibe about Earth 2 than they used to have. When I did that conference, there was a lot of hate in the general chat and a lot of people, I got some abuse myself for standing up for it. And I think after that interview, everything changed. Everybody realized Shane was cool. And then I think he started releasing some stuff and, everything's changed quite a lot since then. So I think if anything, he's probably gone up a bit in my estimations as time's gone on.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, awesome. Hopefully it's not going to be too long before it all drops and kind of everybody's opinions will be changed. Although I'm sure the people that hate will just change their narratives again anyway. Next, we've got a whole host from Spectrum. We've got a ton. I've even had to chop some of them because there was too many. This first one, we know video/digital games have a life cycle. How does Metaverses and E2 differ from the normal pattern game companies struggle with?
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
We know digital video games have a life cycle. How do Metaverses or Earth 2 differ from the normal pattern game companies struggle with?
It's a great question again. So I imagine there'll be a lot more longer because there's a financial incentive. I believe that like Earth 2 and these, the future of the world, let's just take a step back, right? Future of the world is going to end up being more and more automation. So you go to supermarket now, you're scanning your stuff. There's no need for workers. I believe that future people will be working within games. And I believe that people will be doing jobs within games because the purpose of doing manual labor and stuff just won't exist. There'll be automated robots that do that kind of stuff. So humans themselves will have to find a purpose. And I think their purpose will be to go into games and create value within themselves, a bit like traders and investors do already, I suppose. So I think that the game pattern for Earth 2 will be different to normal games because there's a financial incentive. And I believe that people will be working within these games to make an income, especially in developing countries. I think a lot of people from the likes of the Philippines, where the average wage in the Philippines is $150 a month. I think these types of people will come in and they will be like sourcing for resources and loot and working for people, and they will get paid more money in Earth 2 than they would in a normal job.
Yeah, I think kind of if you compare it to even things like World of Warcraft, Guild Wars 2 and stuff like that, these aren't like games like what you would buy for the PS2 and stuff, where you literally get the end of the game and you're done. The things that are kind of they evolve over time and they go for years, and they add new content kind of as players progress through things and stuff, and they evolve with the audience. I mean, how long has World of Warcraft been going now? It's like must be 15 years plus or something, and it continues to develop and it continues to add on it. And I think those are kind of the earliest examples of what we would consider a metaverse with the mass players and stuff like that. And as long as you're willing to develop with the times, I don't see them ever going anywhere.
Agreed. Yeah, like if you look at Civilization, how many versions of that have been? I still play it to this day, and like I think that I've started playing in it must have been when I was a kid within my teens. So 20 odd years I've been playing Civilization. I still never get bored of it. So I think there's something about the strategy side of things and dealing with it will be great. If they get the right gameplay, it'll be great. But that is if they get the right gameplay. They might mess that up. So we don't know yet.
I've literally said the Ego Sim could make or break Earth 2. Kind of depends how that goes. I know we're getting more games plugging into it as well, because we've got drone and stuff, and then there's going to be future ones. But we'll see, because kind of the Ego Sim is going to be the first one. So yeah, I'm eagerly anticipating that one. We are next one from Spectrum. We are in a transition from websites to become 3D and more interactive. Do you think the metaverse is the gateway and adoption that will change website developments from now on?
No. And I'm going to be honest about this. I think that they're two different things.
Okay.
And the reason why I don't think so is because would I run an event in Earth 2? What is the need when you can 2D, click things and do stuff? The user experience would have to be exceptional and exceptionally easy and exceptionally comfortable for it to take over that. I think it's a long way off it. So my definition of the metaverse is the internet in 3D, but I think certain things are best suited to 3D and some things are best suited to 2D. And also metaverses don't need to be 3D. They can be 2D as well. It's not necessary. If you look at Alien Worlds and other ones, they are 2D. They're creating 2D metaverses. So my answer to that is so it's not a definite no, but I think there'll be the need for both still.
Yeah, I think they kind of I agree with you to a certain degree. I think they'll kind of just gradually interact with each other more and become kind of seamlessly linked together, rather than just kind of getting rid of websites for metaverse platform kind of things.
That guy that just eats his words in a few years' time on that, and everything becomes 3D, and then they play my clip on YouTube saying this guy predicted that in 3D. But I think it's got some time until it does that for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody hold you accountable for that if things do change. All right, so Luke, following on from that, what do you think about the user experience in Earth 2?
It's really interesting. Yeah, we were just talking about the 3D side of things and how that will work. But one thing that I have noticed is that the user experience of Earth 2 is exceptional. So loads of people comment on the UI and say, oh, it's terrible, like sometimes when they release new updates. But what you've got to realize is that it's about how a user feels and how quick the transactions happen within. So with Earth 2, it's just so easy to buy tiles. I don't know if you've noticed this. And you asked at the very start of the interview, like, why didn't you get into Sandbox? Because it's bloody complicated. I'd have to transfer some of my other coins into Sand and then do something else to be able to buy it. And the big question that got asked at some of my conferences was like about what is going to be the game changer for metaverses. Why some metaverse is going to be better than the other, and the key is to have hybrid wallets. Ones that you can play with fiat and ones that you can play with crypto, and you can transfer between. So this is what the experts, the industry experts, have all been saying, and they're like, if the metaverse could only do fiat and also crypto payments, they would take over. So that's where the user experience of wallets and being able to put the money in is so successful with Earth 2. If they can manage to do that crypto versus fiat, so normal people who are not in the crypto world can invest and other people can, that's where they're going to get such a huge user base, and that's why they have got such a huge user base as well. Buying the tiles is dead easy. So the user experience of Earth 2 is incredibly good. People often comment that it's not. I believe, with some of the UI around Jules and it could be better, and they got RGA, who I worked with before as well, who are great. They'll be able to improve some of those aspects, but the general getting into Earth 2 and being able to buy stuff is so easy. Anyone can do it, anyone. And that's what makes it really successful at the moment.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you've watched my past interviews, but I've literally made the exact same point that you've just made in previous conversations. It's, if Earth 2 didn't have the option to buy land for fiat, I literally wouldn't be in Earth 2. We wouldn't be having this interview right now, so I wouldn't have bought it. And I think that's why the user growth just absolutely skyrocketed compared to other competitors, because I didn't know anything about crypto before F2. I wouldn't have known how to buy it, convert to it, to get into another one or something. I would have just went, no, it's not for me, it's too complicated.
And it is, even I'm tech savvy, I run a tech events company, but even with crypto, I find it difficult. I find it really difficult still. Still, connecting MetaMask and all of this stuff and getting onto the right chains, it's complicated. This is the big problem that crypto faces, and that's why there's no mass adoption. So, once people can start paying in fiat and not realizing that it's converting to crypto, that's where you're going to get mass adoption of any cryptocurrency or any Web3 platform. And that's why I am really confident about R2, because it's the first one that I've seen that will have both in the metaverse thing. As soon as you can start paying for land in Sandbox in pounds or in dollars or whatever your choosing currency is, then they will get loads of people going in and buying it. Also, the price point is really low for Earth 2, and they've made it accessible to everybody. They're not just trying to sell it to crypto whales. So mass adoption looks really, really, realistic. I mean, it's already happening, but I think afterwards, I can just see all my friends who have know nothing about crypto, and they were all getting into the NBA stuff online. They all buying that because
Top Shots or something they call it. Yeah.
Top Shots. So all of my friends were into it. None of them been in crypto before. They're all buying it because you could just literally like put your money in fiat and buy the things, and then it was a bit more harder to take it out, which is another thing that Earth 2 got criticized for. But if you go to NBA, they have a limit on how much you could take out and money, and they're getting it all right. All these things, these foundational things that people don't seem to get their head around, that like it's really difficult to do these things. It's really difficult to get the right security levels, to get the exchanges, to be able to all of the stuff that they conquered. It seems so simple because they made it so simple. The user experience is so simple. It's highly complicated to put it together. To make something that simple is highly complex, which is ironic, really. That's the basis of good user experience. Highly complex problem, you solve it with simplicity and make it easy for people to use.
But if you think of it from a kind of traditional gamer point, we used to put in normal funds into a game, and then that's converted to a game currency, aren't we? So if we're doing that in the metaverse, but it's just a crypto instead of an in-game currency, it's essentially the same sort of thing. So people's understandings of using their traditional fiat money and getting a different currency is literally going to be parallel to the likes of where you're buying gems or jewels in like a game from the Play Store or something. It's literally going to be the same.
Sorry to drag this question out, but like the other thing I noticed is that prior to the metaverse, we did events about the metaverse before it even started. So we were talking about Fortnite at one of our events, and an e-commerce event that we were doing, and we're talking about the kids playing it, like buying skins and like owning skins, and how in the pandemic there was such an opportunity for companies in fashion to be able to buy these skins or to do partnerships with Fortnite for the skins and then be able to do it. Then you had the Travis Scott concert where people went and watched a concert, and it was phenomenal. Like, so there is so much you can do within games. Like, you can watch concerts, you can buy clothes, there's so many things. So going back to the other question, will there be any need for 2D screens? Yeah, for certain things. You're probably not going to write a Word document in the metaverse, but other things like watching a concert or certain elements you might want to do. I think when you go to an event online, at this moment in time where the technology is, I've tried to do it with VR. It's very uncomfortable. It's very hard to do. And why would you want to walk around in a game? There's maybe some reasons you would want to, but you really want, like now, would you watch this in the metaverse? Would you watch this interview at the moment? Why would you need to? You can just go onto YouTube and watch it. So these things will evolve over time. And I think, maybe at this moment in time, the 3D world's not necessarily needed for everything, but maybe it will be. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it could just potentially overcomplicate some things for now. I get that. Yeah. Right. So we have this next one from Spectrum actually touches up on what you've just been talking about, actually. Where's it gone? What are your thoughts about virtual real estate, and how can it be widely adopted by investors, traders, and everyday people?
Virtual real estate is interesting. So I've got lots of thoughts about it. Uh, People will invest money into it. It's going to be the future. Okay, so let's take it back to some of the stuff I've listened to. People say that virtual real estate is going to be worth more than real estate. So
Yeah.
a plot on New York will be worth more than it is in real life in the future. And your question, you go, why? How's that possible? It's a lot of pixels. Well, if you think about it, your local shop is not as worth as much as Amazon.
Yeah.
And why is that? Because there's a mass user base that can go into that thing at any one time. There's unlimited potential. There's so many different reasons why internet stuff is worth more than online. And sometimes it's because it's just super pumped. It's got loads of investment in it, and people find it valuable and they want it. So I think that real estate, maybe not as high as the real world, who knows, but I think virtual real estate will go up a lot in value.
Uh-huh.
Now, the big thing and the big game changer will be DeFi in the virtual real estate. And the reason why rich people tend to own real estate in general, and the reason why prices are so high, is because they borrow from it and they take out debts as assets on their assets. So if you look at any rich person in the world that's super rich, they won't own anything. They will borrow against assets.
Uh-huh.
And most people that are hugely rich will buy lots of houses and then borrow against it and then use that money in order to avoid tax. So that's what it comes down to with really, really rich people. I don't own any property, by the way, just in case anyone's wondering, in case the HMRC's watching. But yeah, that's how it works. So what people do is they buy virtual real estate and then they will borrow off the back of it. And then when you borrow money, debt is tax-free. So it's a way of investing your money, taking your money out tax-free and cleanly tax-free, because you can borrow against any kind of asset that you own. Online and in digital, it just makes it so much easier than having to buy a house and go through all of the normal contracts. So I think there's a huge potential as an investment for virtual real estate. And in crypto in general, and that's what the whole DeFi market, decentralized finance market, is all about, borrowing against these things. You get transferred into another coin which has a similar value to Bitcoin. You can then exchange it to Bitcoin, and then you've got the debt money. So that's quite complicated.
It is.
I've lost.
No, I'm still following. I'm still following.
Yeah, that's why virtual assets are going to be really important, because you can borrow against them and quickly.
So I can see that being an answer for why that's going to bring investors and the super rich and stuff in. But what do you think it is going to be for kind of the average Joe? How do you think the metaverse and such is going to expand the kind of the average guy on the street?
Well, there's obviously so many reasons from a player point of view, like having fun and meeting your mates in it and having your own LAN where you can meet people, and social media aspects of it. There's plenty. But going back to my financial one, it means that the average Joe can borrow against his assets very quickly and easily as well. You don't need to be
Okay. Yeah.
So you could own a couple of parcels of land on or tiles of land, should I say, on Earth 2, and you could borrow against it. And you could lock that land in place to do to things. So I think it will be the financial system for everybody to be using. They'll be borrowing against assets and owning assets. In terms of the gameplay, and like I said before about working in the metaverse, like people will be able to go in and get jobs. I think people will be employers in the metaverse, where people are able to employ other people to go and build their resources. I believe Earth 2 is going to be like Earth. And the way they're creating it is going to be like Earth. So there's going to be like so many resources and stuff that you have to go and mine and farm and do all of this stuff for. So I think it's going to create a whole ecosystem economy, which is going to be really interesting. And if it works, which I hope it does, those people that own the land are going to be the same people that own, like similar to people that own the land in the real world. And people will be able to come in and farm off it and work on it and do different things. And the big question is, and I'm sure there'll be a load of people at home thinking, what's he on about? Because I probably would have thought it a few years ago. The big thing is that if you're, if there's some money involved in it and you can go around and do things, I think people will come to the metaverse. If you're just walking around the metaverse aimlessly, hoping to find something entertaining to do, it's quite difficult. And it's a question I probably put to everyone at home. How many times have you walked around any type of thing so far? Have you ever walked around any game? I just try to think metaverse, like what's the main one? Slipped my mind. The Second Life. So Second Life,
Yes.
who's been Second Life? You walk around Second Life and have a look. I've walked around Second Life, and what do people do? They walk around with virtual dogs. They walk around with virtual tattoos. They build their own houses. They do all that sort of stuff. So that's what I foresee it being. I mean, this already exists. It's already existed for decades. This one here just seems like it's going to be a lot bigger on a grander scale. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where it all goes. But I personally think primarily it's going to be an investment thing. That's you know, in a good way, in a fun way, in an Age of Empires way, in a you know, virtual tycoon type, you know, game. That's personally where I see it going.
I get that. No, that's really well put. I think one of the big things for Earth 2 as well, initially at the start anyway, the geo linking, like the locational linking. In my head, I've always had like a kind of Pokemon Go equivalent of Earth 2 on that, with even you were just talking about the resource and the land and stuff, people being able to go to the real world locations and collect bits of treasure and stuff like that. And I think that would be kind of a good way to link the average person, and not just getting them out and about, but getting them interacting with the Earth 2 world as well.
Totally. I think that's the way that it will work in the future. But I've got more comments on that, but I think one of the questions that's online actually was asking similar things, so I'll wait for that.
Okay, no problem. Next, where are we at? Well, this touches on what you've just been. This covers on what you've been talking about a lot, actually. Do you see new types of jobs appearing soon within the metaverse? Companies being made just for the purposes of functioning inside the metaverse, like SEO, event planning, 3D devs, etc. What are your thoughts of the market demand and what is needed or missing?
I think it's going to be a huge industry. I think that, yes, it will be. You know, look at the gaming industry and how much that's worth. And that's the target market, in my opinion. It's going to be those sort of players that will be coming in. I think it will be, you know, a lot of strategy type gamers as well. I imagine they will have like hooks into actual playing games. Like I know a lot of the community love, you know, going around doing shoot 'em ups and whatnot. So it'll be and drone the game and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's an interesting one. An interesting one.
Yeah. So what about kind of traditional jobs in the metaverse? Do you see people doing any of that sort of stuff? What kind of roles do you think there's going to be other than kind of the gaming elements?
Sorry, yeah, I didn't quite answer that. So I do think there'll be loads of traditional roles, but when you say in the metaverse, it's like will people be communicating through the metaverse? Is a question. I'm not entirely sure. Will they be still communicating through video calls like this because of the user experience is easier? Possibly. The jobs that are in the metaverse, I personally think will be things like mining and resource finding and looting. Let's say looting, finding loot, not looting people's property. Maybe that would be a thing as well. I've heard that Earth 2 are looking into, people being able to attack each other and their lands. But it's very much like the real world. So I think there'll be these artificially made purposes within Earth 2, and people can go in and create them. And if you gave, let's just talk hypothetically about this. So if you go to a developing country and there's people there on $150 an hour, and they've got a choice to go and work and do a virtual PA job for somebody in Australia, or alternatively they can walk around Earth 2 scavenging for gold and for different things that are laid out within the metaverse. I think they would go around there and work really hard and long hours to pick those things up. And if that was on your land, you've got a percentage of it, then the landowners will become more wealthy as well. So I feel like those sort of jobs where you got people doing stuff, going around and having a purpose to be able to find stuff, to collect stuff, to farm, to mine, those traditional jobs. I think there'll be a lot of that kind of stuff in the metaverse. All the other stuff is already loads of big agencies and stuff that make virtual worlds, and they're doing really, really well at the moment. So yeah, there's going to be tons of industry around the metaverse. There already is outside as well.
I can definitely see more coming into it as well. I can see kind of like things like fitness, maybe boxing classes and yoga and stuff like that going on and doing your virtual class, not having the kind of the inconvenience of having to go somewhere to have the class with your friends, and maybe it's a famous person does it so you can actually go have the course with them somewhere or something, rather than just being refined to what's in your area of what you can do and having to go out to do that.
You've got to think. I'll tell you an interesting one. I've got a Peloton. So like why
Peloton? What's that?
Peloton, the running machine, bike machine.
Okay.
So basically, it's an exercise machine you have in your house with a screen. You do courses with other people. So
Okay.
what's to say that you couldn't go on the Peloton and then join Earth 2 and then run around one of the
Yeah.
cities, you know, with other people and see the, you know, the landscape as you're running. I mean, you can already do that on Peloton. They have courses run around Sydney, and you do it with your headphones on the music. So yeah, I can see virtual exercising being a huge thing. I think it's a massive, massive industry, and I think that I'm really excited about virtual, the digital healthcare industry. I think it's incredible. They've got these mirrors now that you can do your exercises, and then it will show you the posture and the moves you have to, how to do it. I think now, I think virtual exercise will replace traditional exercise. And if anybody here is a Peloton user, you'll understand what I mean, because I much prefer to go on a run with my trainer on Peloton, my virtual trainer, than I do in the park.
Yeah, I completely agree. I can see completely. Maybe it's not completely replacing it, but I can certainly see a lot of people who wouldn't go access those things or just making their lives easier doing it like that instead.
It's convenience exercise. Like, I get off from a meeting, I can go for a run for 10 kilometers around Sydney on the treadmill. It's easier than running around the park and having dogs chasing me and whatnot, you know, and running around babies and prams and stuff, you know, like, it's just so convenient and easy, and it's quick. And we're in a convenience world where people want quick, easy, quick results. And so I think, virtual exercising is a massive one for the metaverse. There's just so many things like that. If you look at everything you do, there's so many things that could be involved in the metaverse that people haven't even thought about yet.
Even the kind of embarrassment factor. I know there's a lot of there's some of my friends who are overweight and they don't want to go to the gym because they think they're going to be judged going to the gym. So if you can completely cut that out, then there's no barrier of entry for them as well, because if they're behind the avatar or there's nobody else there, then that's not an issue at all, is it?
Such a huge thing, avatars, and how body perception is, and how you are. You can be anybody in a virtual world, so you can change who you are and what you look, and those biases that people have against you. And so that's really interesting what you said. Yeah, maybe that you're running in a more sort of like healthier looking avatar, and you know, and people's perception of you is different. So you know, there's lots of things that that can change the world in that sense. And I do think it's a bit of an ethical concern, because some people be like, why would you change how you are to be digitally perfect? You already see that on Instagram, people editing their photos and whatnot. You know, I do think that there is some good causes to this, that people can go into the metaverse and be whoever they want to be, and I think that's quite a cool thing.
Yeah, you're no longer going to be refined to kind of what you were born with, and you'll no longer have to go under the knife if you want to change that as well, which is kind of maybe it's more ethical than the actual surgery.
Precisely. Yeah, I've heard a lot of talks about this, and there's some great connotations to it. There's some negative ones, but I won't go into them as we will probably have seen on the news and stuff, that you know, there has to be some limits to it. But yeah, there is. I think there's a lot of positive connotations to being able to do that as well.
It's like anything. There's even social media. There's pros and cons to that, isn't there? You've got people addicted to it and changing who they are and stuff as well. But kind of any new tech that emerges, you're going to have those adjustment years where generations are going to have to kind of get used to stuff as well. And the metaverse is just kind of, metaverse and Web3 is just the next evolution of that.
Precisely, yeah. It's going to be interesting to see the future.
Yeah, definitely. Right. This is quite a good one. I like this one. This is still from Spectrum, and we've still got more after this from Spectrum. Which CEO of the tech industry do you think Shane is more like? It can be one or more.
He's different from anyone that I've met in the industry. He's very different. And I'll tell you what the difference is between him and the others. The others are very financially motivated, and Shane's very, he's motivated by doing the right thing. I don't think he's financially motivated. That's the big difference. Altruistic is the word, right? He wants to change the world. He wants to make the world a better place. He wants to redistribute wealth to people. He doesn't want, there to be inequalities. He's looking use Earth2 as a charitable platform and to do great things. And it's proven. If he wanted to make loads of money, he could have done it. He could have been doing competitions, shilling it, putting out more ads, taking as much more money as he wants. He doesn't need to. So I think he's driven by a different vision. He wants to change the world, whereas the other ones want to make money. Some of them, I'm not saying all of them, some of them are there just for the money.
Yeah, I mean, Shane's brought up he's stuff that he wants to do with E2 for E1 and stuff as well, where he wants to do the charitable stuff. And I think there's a lot of us that are kind of excited to see where that's going, because I think that's kind of probably is one of the least spoken about things with Earth 2, but from Shane's kind of passion behind that, I think it's going to end up being quite a big part of it. Yeah, so I'm excited to see where that goes.
I think he's a very given type of person. You can just see that by the airdrops that he's done, and the fact that he's kept players with lesser incomes the opportunity to be a part of this at the start. He hasn't just gone out and to the crypto world and got as much money as he can off the richest people.
He's kept it relevant for everyone. Even it's not even just that, but there's existing players of Earth 2 who Shane's just give them permission to like use the logo for clothes, to use his likeness on NFTs if they're willing to give parts of that to charity and stuff as well. So he's not just like Earth 2 is mine, I'm the only one making money from it. He's willing to share that with the community, and as long as they're going to give some back to charitable causes and stuff as well. So that's quite a good start of it.
Even to me, when he gave me the interview, the reason why he did it is I was very active at the time in general chat, and he saw my face, and I said, "This is my alias," and he actually saw that what I was writing about to people. I was quite defensive of what's going on, and when people were saying, "Oh, well, like Sandbox does this," I was just putting them right. No, it doesn't. Like, this is how long it's been now, and I know the guys to do it. And they were like, "Who's this guy?" He's just some sort of weirdo to pretending to know everybody. But I actually was talking to them all at the time, and and Shane saw some of that, and I think he always wants to help people that have helped him, and he's very loyal, and he wouldn't give the interview to some news channel, but he'd give it to me and my events organization because I was part of that too. And I think that's a really admirable thing, and the way that he behaves is really telling of what he's going to be like in the future.
Yeah, I think Shane keeps an eye on Discord a lot more than he would be willing to admit, to be honest. I think he definitely recognises the peers from there. You're from the very early days as well, though, aren't you? When Shane actually used to spend a lot more time in there.
That's right. Yeah, I was at the very start chatting to them quite a lot, trying to figure out, like everyone else, whether this was a legit project and whether to put any more money into it. And I'm glad I did. It's obviously worked out well up until now.
Fingers crossed that'll continue as well. Yeah, I'm sure we're both of us expect it to do amazing though. How would you approach, this is still from Spectrum, how would you approach companies to convince them to consider metaverses or Earth 2 platform for their marketing presence?
It's a problem. I've answered all of the questions in a positive light, but I think sometimes you need to look at it from a negative point of view. There's a lot of people in Earth 2. There's a lot of land. There's a lot of tiles. Why would somebody go and pick your tiles in Sudan? Or why would someone go and pick your tiles in a certain area because of, I don't know why they would. I'm just talking as myself. People have approached me and said, "Luke, we're going to build an event city. Can Tech Circus host their things?" I'm like, "No, I'll just go and buy a load of tiles myself and build it myself. Why would I go to your land?" And this is what the big companies are going to be thinking. So they're not going to, unfortunately, I hate to say it, they're not going to come to your land in Africa or in Egypt or whatever, or in they're probably going to go. They're going to probably end up going to London and buying somebody's tiles in London or in Las Vegas or the Strip or something. That's what I imagine. But what they will need to do, and what Shane's done amazingly well, is that all of these tiles have resource production, and it looks like that's the only way that you're going to be able to buy resources, and that's the only way you're going to be able to get the essence is buying it from other players. So all those people that invested early will have those farms that will literally be feeding into those big companies from a marketing perspective. So bit of a long answer to a short question. I think that people will market within Earth 2, but just bear in mind how many tiles there are and how many lands there are, and like how are they going to do that? Maybe through Shane's ad system, and you'll take a share and it gets distributed across a bit like Facebook ads or something. So there could be a way of doing it, but yeah, I do think lots of people will be involved in Earth 2 because there's a lot of players within it.
Yeah.
And I think it'll probably have to come from I don't think people will be going and working or buying people's lands unless they're in really predominant areas, or unless they maybe made a mega city that's really attractive. But yeah, in terms of the actual marketing, I imagine it must come from a main distributed system that's in control of Earth 2. Otherwise, I tell you from my own personal experience, work with big companies, they don't want to deal with lots of people. They want to deal with one company that deals it. So maybe there'll be some person that creates a business, like, I will put you all over the metaverse for this much money, and then they will deal with the big companies that way. But yeah, something along those lines that they're going to have to distribute it out through one channel, either through Earth 2 or through other company that does it for them.
Oh, that makes sense. That's kind of another role that might appear in the metaverse as well, kind of ad agencies that are just taking the money from the big guys and distributing it to where they think is most popular. But
Jobs in the metaverse, that might be one of them, right? So
touching up on what you said about it being location as well, I slightly disagree with you where you're saying they'll just go buy their own land. I mean, I do agree that a lot of them will do that, but I do think where you mentioned megacities, I think we're going to have kind of areas of high traffic where you will get companies naturally wanting to advertise as well, kind of like how we've got cities in the UK where advertisers would love to have billboards and stuff like that. I definitely think we're going to have, well, as long as Earth-2 does as well as what we hope, we're definitely going to have areas similar to that within Earth-2 where they won't necessarily be owned by the brands, but they'll be brands wanting a presence within that location just because of how busy it is.
They might rent land to people in prime locations, wherever they might be. And just to put that into perspective, so you know that my fault. I've invested in. I actually started a mega city with. So was there, and I bought 3,000 tiles in that area, and then Predict came along and started buying around the outside, and then we started creating that thing. She started creating it. I was talking to her about it, and that whole area got built because I had such a big predominant strip of land there, and then I built in London and in Paris and all other locations. So I do think it's either going to be mega cities that are the big ones, or locational cities. But wherever the highest footfall is, I agree with you, that's where people want to advertise. And they might have to rent. Maybe it's too expensive, maybe they can't get the land, they might have to rent out people. But I personally would be more about EPLs. I think EPLs are going to be more important in that sense. I feel like people will come for an EPL to a certain piece of land anywhere in the world. I think EPLs could be a game changer.
So do you want to talk us through EPLs? What exactly is this? Isn't a question from the community, but you've brought them up a few times. What sort of EPLs are you holding, and what do you think is the potential for them?
So a couple of the ones I'm holding roulette. I'm holding I think bingo hall, like lots of gambling ones that are the most used ones. I'm holding tattoos, which is the most bought thing on what do you call it, on
Second Life.
So tattoos are the most bought things. So people go to tattoo shops for their avatar. So I've done research on all of the metaverses, all of the things that are the most expensive EPLs and those metaverses, and picked from there. And I've got quite a few of them. I don't know what it will be. It might be that longer words mean better things. Maybe it's shorter words. We don't know yet. But I think EPLs, whatever way they go, it could be that Tech Circus events is better than Tech Circus because people search for that, or it's easier to find. Who knows? But I think EPLs will be the way that people come in.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was very hyped about EPLs when they were first announced. There was a lot of even kind of the big Earth-2 people were like, why do I need EPLs? Wouldn't just buy a URL and forward it to the NSA. It really does just completely miss the point of what an EPL is. If Earth-2 becomes as big as what all of us hoping it is, then URLs have got no comparison to what the EPL is inside of Earth-2, because that's native to Earth-2 and it's got all the benefits associated with that Earth-2 attached to those EPLs. Just think of it like how we've got directories in our world. That could be like the directory of the Earth-2 world, but even kind of things like voice recognition, if somebody asks for something or to go somewhere or something, if it's dragging those from EPLs, then we can go there. I love EPLs.
It could be the next big thing, or if not, it's either EPLs or location. So if I went into here's an experiment. I told my friends, go onto the thing, go and buy your land. All of them went straight to London and went to Leicester Square. So I bought Leicester Square because I knew that would be one place that, just doing a bit of user testing with my friends. Okay, where do you go? Straight to Leicester Square, straight to London Eye, straight to Tower of London. Like, let's try and buy those ones. So that's what you got to think of, a new person coming in, what they're going to do, or if not, maybe searching for something in the directory. Oh, I want to play roulette, or I want to listen to hip hop, or I want to do something, and it will come up with that thing. So you need to. That's what I think it might happen. We'll see.
No, I like that point there. There's not many people agree with how big EPLs could be, and I'm glad there's somebody on my side.
Maybe.
What was that? Sorry, you cut off a bit there.
I just said maybe we're wrong, but we'll see. It's all speculation.
It really is all speculation. Shane could end up ditching EPLs completely for all we know. This is the last question from Spectrum. Earth-2 is split between relocational gameplay, ER, E1 ads, and virtual gameplay, VR megacities. What do you think will be the most interesting for players? Kind of connects to what we've just been talking about, actually.
This is a really good question. I was hoping it would get asked. So if you ever go to Venice and try and use your sat nav and walk around and try and figure out where the streets are, you'll notice that sat navs and satellite navigation is very poor. It's
Okay.
okay on big motorways, it's okay on certain things, but when you start getting to the smaller things like alleyways in Venice, it can't pick
Yeah.
up where the hell you are. And that's the problem with this multiverse of being in both, you know, the real world and in a metaverse. So I personally don't think AR, VR, any of that stuff will happen for a long time until the technology catches up.
Okay.
I don't think it's even possible at the moment to locate something. And so people will say, oh yeah, but you can in Pokemon Go. But
Yeah.
in Pokemon Go, the monsters, or the Pokemon, should I say, they change locations depending on where your sat nav is. So it's very hard to actually locate it in a specific slot,
Yeah.
and keep it, because the sat navs, yeah, aren't as accurate as people believe they are. So I think, you know, it's going to take some time to get to there. I'm personally investing in those areas, because I think high football is a really big thing.
Yeah.
I think it will take some time to be a multiverse. You put some glasses on and you see all your stuff there. I think that's a little bit a way off, but I think they are planning to do that when the technology catches up.
Actually, I saw a news article or something, it was literally just days ago, where it was one of the big Mac companies, it was Google or Apple or something like that, had started talking about the little alleyways that you want about, sending people down, like, you know how they've traditionally had the cars that drive the streets. They've started sending people on bikes down little alleyways and stuff like that, so they can get all the kind of intricate details of the cities. But if you've got every little alleyway in the entire world, the map and stuff like that, I think you might be right, as in that is going to be years away before we do have that sort of accuracy.
Imagine that, having your house and then having all of the little objects in the right place, and then everybody coming to it and being able to see that in their glasses. That's a huge thing to be able to create. So there might be technology out there that can do it. There's a lot of emerging technology. Someone might disagree with me somewhere online, but you know, at the moment, from what I've seen and the people I've spoken to, that's not possible.
That would potentially have to be down to the individual player to kind of scan and add themselves or something, wouldn't it? Because even if you've got your home in it, if you move a table or something like that and then it's not moved into space, you've buggered yourself anyway. So I hadn't even considered that bit, but yeah, that might be a bit of a hassle and down to individual players.
Yeah, Earth 2, I don't think it'll be on VR. I don't think it'll be on AR or anything anytime soon. I think they will recreate the world and the gameplay, and you'll go into a type of, you know, PlayStation almost game where you can walk around it, play, meet people, and do stuff.
Yeah, and it'll gradually evolve over the years for that as well. Now, right, this is one of the only playful questions I have left in, and Trav is asking, whose beard came first, yours or Shane's?
Oh, that's a really good one. Definitely mine.
Yeah.
I had a beard since I was 16 or 17, and I've seen pictures of Shane with a beard.
Yeah, I don't think Shane had a beard even when Earth 2 first started, did he? Certainly not as big as what it is now, anyway.
No, yeah, it grew and grew as the time went on. I think it's almost like a measurement of the time that he's been working.
Yeah, I'm sure he agreed not to cut it until E2V1 was launched, or we had gameplay or something like that. There was one of the users asked him not to, and I'm sure he agreed to do it. But yeah, we'll see how long that lasts.
We'll see.
Right, so next up we have E2NWO. I'm sure that's a player that you know quite well. Do you plan on utilising Earth 2 to host your virtual events when available? And how do you see this working?
It's a really good question. So for the last 2 years or so, people have been selling me virtual event platforms.
Okay.
Ones where you can walk around. There's one that I got something really cool. You go in a speedboat and then you like end up on a beach, and then you party with people, and then you go into a conference hall and you can walk around to virtual stands that was launched in pandemic. It's a weird one. Like going back to the user experience part of it, like, do you really want to walk around a game? And the Travis Scott conference in Fortnite was just the best thing I've ever seen. It was probably better than going to a normal conference. So you just didn't know what's going to come out. So I think, yeah, if you could make it spectacular and you could make it like groundbreaking, you had the right developers and designers working on something amazing. Yeah. If it's just an interview like this, where people want to stand in a metaverse watching a screen when they can just watch a screen. So that was the idea when I bought the land to host events in it.
Okay.
There's one thing I will say on this. Some other people bought land and said, oh, we're going to host events on it.
Yeah.
hosting events is really difficult. You need to build a whole community of people, and maybe yourself, you could do it with your following. But people that are claiming to do this, it's not that you have a conference hall or a piece of land and people go to it. You have to get the following, and you have to get the right speakers. It's essentially a whole business. It's a whole thing that you have to run.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a really desirable thing enough too to want to create events. But the hardest part of getting events is getting people and speakers to speak at it. And I don't think it really matters where you host it. You could host it on Decentraland, you could host it on Earth 2, you could host it anywhere. I suppose whatever the best platform is at the time. But if you want to be hosting events, then you need to be hosting events with the same principles anywhere you do it.
Yeah, you're just gonna have the same kind of challenges of what events do in F1. Actually, there's some of my friends who run a convention in Newcastle. They own a thing called SunnyCon, and so I kind of know some of the inner workings of how difficult it can be to get guests and cancellations, and then making sure that you're gonna have enough people to attend, to pay for the tickets and stuff like that. So I get exactly what you mean. So do you think it's kind of the events that will be in places like the Metaverse will be more larger events that have got big backing and stuff, rather than small little meetings and stuff? Or
I mean, it's a platform, so it's the same as saying, do you think people on Zoom, will host events on Zoom, with smaller audience or bigger? It doesn't really matter, I guess. It's just a platform. So if the platform becomes good enough that people can go to it and, host events, then that's great. There has been some good events in Decentraland, and I can see why people like them, especially for networking and walking around and meeting people. But it's the same with everything. There's people on Earth 2 that said they're going to create games. Are you a games developer? Do you know how to create a game? If you are, then great. But why are you not creating games now? That would be the question I ask. Oh, I'm going to create a shop or a supermarket. Do you own a supermarket now? If you're going to create something in Earth 2, you need to at least be able to do it in Earth 1 before. Otherwise, in my mind, it's a bit of a fantasy. And I think there's a lot of people in the community. I might annoy a few people by saying this, but they're dreamers, and they're really, think it's going to be easier because it's on the metaverse. I don't think it will be. I think it'll be the same problem, maybe even more people doing it and more competition.
I'll partly disagree with what you just said. I mean, maybe a shop and stuff like that, you will have the same difficulties, but certainly the things like creating games, I have no doubt in my mind that Earth 2 are going to give us development tools where you can literally just add assets and add game mechanics and stuff like that. You're literally going to, kind of like what the Unity engine has got now, you can literally just drag things in, and you can, as long as you've got a little bit of development, a little bit of development, you can create a game from other people's work. And I think Earth 2 will definitely have some kind of elements where you can create, maybe it's not spectacular massive stuff, but where you can get basic games together. You could do tic-tac-toe or bring basketball elements or mini golf and stuff like that. I definitely think it's going to make development of games easier and more accessible for a lot of people.
Yeah, that's a fair point. If you go onto Canva, you can become a designer without any design knowledge. And I think that could be the case. Don't get me wrong, but then you still got to get people to play your game.
Yeah.
And you still got to understand how game theory works, and like the Wolfgang stuff from back in the day, storytelling and all that. So if you want to make a really successful game, I think that you'd want to have some form of experience in doing it. It's a bit like me. I've got loads of stuff like the tattoo stuff. I don't know how to do tattoos. I don't know the first thing about tattoos actually, so it makes me question why I bought that. But you probably know a lot more judging by your arms than I do. But
you could easily just flip it or something, though. You don't necessarily have to do it yourself.
Yeah, I think if I was to do something like that, I'd probably employ someone that knows what they're doing to do it for me. And I'd probably employ the right developers or the right designers and the right tattoo artists to be able to do that. So I just think there is a little bit of wishful thinking. People, I've seen it. I think maybe specifically in the events industry, I've seen a lot of people saying, we're going to create these big events in F2, we're going to do the convention center. And I'm like, why would people go to your convention center?
Yeah.
Because if it's in a mega city, maybe, maybe. But yeah, we'll have to see. It's to me, a lot of it does seem a little bit wishful thinking from people, and it's good to dream and it's good to create. And if it creates an entrepreneurial platform for people to be able to build stuff, and that's amazing. I hope it does.
I completely agree. But when you're saying it's the audience, that's going to be the hardest part. I 100% agree with that. It is going to be getting people coming to you. You're either going to have to have expertise in doing that. You're going to have to be somebody known, a big brand that can pay for it, or you'll just have to build something that is that insane people naturally come. You'll have the same limitations and boundaries of Earth 1, basically.
If somebody in the real world gave you a free shop, or they gave you a shop for very cheap, and then you were in a prime location, and then you start putting stuff in it. I suppose anyone could run a shop if they had that resource. So maybe Earth2 will give people the resource to do things. But I think the big thing, like I said at the start, is that EPLs, prime locations, getting people, drawing people into this stuff. That's what we've got to be focused on. So I really hope it does create a spur of entrepreneurial activity, and there's millions of small business owners that start up from Earth2. It'll be amazing to see that. But sometimes people do go a bit over the top with, I'm going to create the biggest supermarket chain in Earth2. And it's like, well, how are you actually going to do that? What resources do you have? What protocol are you going to use to do the e-commerce? What products are you going to sell? And so we need to start thinking about these things, and maybe practicing a bit in the real world. Go and do something on Etsy and see if you can do that before doing it on Earth2.
Yeah, I completely agree. The amount of people I've saw saying that they're going to do business and stuff like that. I think if every business and every idea launched that I've seen discussed on Discord and Facebook and stuff, there'd be more businesses inside of Earth2 than there would be consumers to use those businesses, because you've got everybody with multiple business ideas.
I think people will do really well with the resources and stuff, and I think most people that own land will make a lot of money, and they'll be able to employ people to create some of their ideas. So it's not all doom and gloom, but I just think people do need to realize that starting a business, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of work, and a lot of years of graft. And if you've got a job at the moment, you have to be realistic about how you're going to try and start that and what experience you've got to do it. So as I said, I really hope it does create a whole new generation of small business owners, and fingers crossed for everybody.
We're probably saving a long way off that, even if it does happen, to be honest. Right, this is a second question from E2NWO, and he is asking, would you agree that Shane is waiting to implement ETH2? Would you agree that Shane is waiting to implement ETH2 as Earth2 is directly tied to the staking capabilities of the new features Ethereum is planning with point of sale?
Yes. I don't know tons about this stuff, but I did see something within my own company where people were talking about the new Ethereum blockchain. The what was it called? You have to remind me of the new thing where they shard. But basically, the transitions become cheaper, faster, and quicker than they were before. And of course, Earth2 has a lot of transitions, and I think that essentially, like, that is, from what I've seen from Shane and what I've marrying the two up, it's almost definite that that's what they're waiting for.
It makes me wonder what happens with Polygon if we are waiting for ETH2 though. Like, is that partnership still going to be there? Because the whole point of Polygon is to make the transactions with Ethereum cheaper and stuff anyway, isn't it? So if we get ETH2 come out where it does that itself, is the Polygon partnership going to be valid anymore?
Maybe not, but also maybe just the price of Ethereum is going to skyrocket at that point, and there'll be a lot more investment in that chain. And if you're launching a coin, which I think there was a question about Essence coming up as well,
yes.
You want it to do well on the launch, so you wouldn't be, it wouldn't be a bad idea to wait for the brand new the brand new fork to come out of Ethereum.
So okay, that makes sense. So I was thinking of it in using ETH2 inside of Earth2, but you're just talking about kind of using the hype from ETH2, aren't you? That makes sense. I get that. Yeah.
Possibly either or. I'm not, claiming to know everything. They might be dumping Polygon and going with the new version of Ethereum. So we'll see. I think seems that if you're launching a coin, you're going to do it around it being a successful launch, and price is one of those things that you have to factor in.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, my understanding of crypto is basic at best, to be honest. So I could even be way off the mark with the points I'm even making there. I think the bit of Earth2 I understand the least is definitely kind of the crypto side of it. I've dabbled a little bit since joining Earth2, but yeah, I'm not great.
Yeah, I understand crypto to a level, normally an educational level. I have about, I think I've got £8,000 in crypto or something. Not a lot, you know, but I've had that for years. So yeah, I just play about with different coins and look at the technology that's behind them.
Yeah, I don't even have 10% of that, so I'm definitely a tiny little fish compared to even you. But next we're moving on to Sprocket. There's a couple of questions again from Sprocket, and she is asking, do you think E2 will be considered a household name and be used to advertise even the smallest businesses? I have it in my head that we'll see localized EPLs like window wash in Norwood or laundrette Croydon.
Yes, I believe it will. And I believe that when the hype comes out around this, and I thought this from the start, the first thing that will happen is the coin will launch. And then when the coin launches, people will become millionaires. It will happen. You'll just see, you know, we know some of the big names out there. I won't point them out.
Yeah.
But like they all of a sudden, this person's made 50 million on Earth 2. And there'll be a story gathering, you know, news around on the local news channels. This person's made this, and then it will blow up, and everybody will be like, "What is this Earth 2 thing?" Right? And then, as we saw in the first wave, it will start rising. Everybody will be jumping on the bandwagon. Every person will be like, "Oh, I can buy some land. I'll buy this. I'm going to buy some on the market." And it will blow up. It will have that second round. And that time, I think the media will be hot on it. And then when it's hot on it, it will become a household name. So that's the first part of the question. Then businesses, yeah, linked to EPLs, it'll be natural. If this is going to be the 3D internet, then yes, I think that this could end up being everywhere.
Yeah, I like that. Good answer. Right, another one from Sprocket, and she is asking, I've been hearing a lot of chatter about Metaverse being a $1 trillion economy. Where do you think Earth 2 will fit in that? Can you see it being the dominant Metaverse?
Yes, 100%. I think it is already the dominant Metaverse, and we just don't know it yet in terms of players. I think when Web3 launches, everybody in Web3 will go, the term we use is ape on it, and they will be investing in it like crazy when it shoots up. Most Web3 people will look at the local charts. So you look at Dapper charts, I think they're called, where you got like the blockchain gaming chart, and you've got your Metaverse charts, and they see which is number 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that's what their crypto news channels and YouTube channels and stuff they watch will all be focused on Web3 stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's Web2 at the moment still. Nobody knows about it, and when they do know about it, the money that will come into Earth 2, I think, will be a lot. I think a lot of money will flow in, even through the coin itself. So why wouldn't you? If you were an investor and you had money and you saw this thing that somehow you stupidly missed for 2 years that has got 200,000 players, it's a metaverse, it's 100 million tiles on it that have been sold. I think I've read somewhere the other day, it was like 5,000 people a day logging onto Earth 2. And if you look at Centraland and Sandbox, they've got a couple of hundred people a day. So it's just eclipses everything else on another scale. So yeah, I think it's gonna be the dominant one.
Yeah, even 5,000 to me seems tiny compared to what it was and what I see it being. I know 5,000 a day seems a lot, but yeah, in comparison to what I can see it being a lot better than 5,000 a day, basically. But yeah. The point you made on Sprocket's first question as well, that was something I hadn't even considered. I don't know why that hadn't crossed my mind, but when you were talking about millionaires being made from Essence and stuff like that, and it bringing in all that growth, I hadn't made that connection for some reason. You made a very good point, though. People are going to be kind of following the money and thinking, oh, what is going on with this? Why are people getting so rich and stuff? That really could be a second huge wave.
It's the unfortunate consequence of these things. And I think for people like me, I'm not necessarily there for the money. Money is important. Like I said, the financial lending and buying system, we all live off money and rely on money. I'm more here for the technology and like the interest in, I like the Ready Player One stuff, and you know, it's one of my favorite films, and I like strategy games, and there's a lot of other reasons why I'm into it. But I think if you really were in it for money, if I'm being honest, you would have already sold out. The people that were really here for money have sold out a long time ago, because it went up, they sold all their stuff and took the money. Anybody that was here for the project probably is still hanging around like me. So it's a really interesting one. We'll have to see where it all goes. Sorry, I've lost my train of thought there a little bit, but
it's all good. No, it was all valid point. Are you willing to share how much Essence you're sitting on, or is that something you would rather keep private?
Yeah, I think I've got about 70,000 around that.
70.
7-0, yeah, because all of the stuff I've got is tier 1 and high value land. Yeah, I've got quite a lot for the amount of land I've got. I've got 20,000 tiles altogether.
Yeah, I think that would probably put you in probably the top 10% or something. I haven't seen the actual stats, but compared to a lot of people who I've talked to who've got Essence and stuff, I would guess that would put you in about the top 10% of holders.
I made such a mistake with Essence. My brother was investing in cheap land that was highly discounted. And so he got stuff in America at 75% off, bought it all up, and he just made tons on Essence. Absolutely.
Okay.
Whereas I was buying stuff that I liked, and stuff that was more market value because it was desirable. So I got a bit less Essence than I probably would have liked. But more than most people, because I still had like London properties and Paris properties.
Still very early.
Yeah.
I think I kind of made a potential similar mistake, but probably is even worse than yours, because I bought literally all of the cheapest tiles that were in it to build Shun City. Like literally 80+% of my portfolio is Shun City, and it's a huge area, but it was literally one of the cheapest areas within F2. So I'm only sitting on 15,000 Essence myself, and I've got 28,000 tiles. Obviously I didn't when Essence first launched, because most of those are tier 2, but I've gone for something that is high risk inside of something that is already high risk. I'm kind of hoping that the mega city, having all your land in one area and doing one thing will pay off within something that is already risky. So I think I might be a bit deluded doing that, but I do have a lot of kind of resource and stuff as well. So we'll see.
There's no wrong way of doing it. Time has already shown us there's no wrong way of doing it. The jewel sellers have made loads of money by selling jewels. There's there's people that I bought all of the cheapest tiles instead of the American ones, and then when Amiga City came, it went from 15 cents to $3 a tile or whatever, and made a fortune off it, and sold a load of it and flipped it over to the cheaper 50-75% prime lands. And you can play around with things. So I do think mega cities could be a really big thing. So especially with the EPLs located there and stuff, and like lots of players that are really interested. Maybe actually the bigger cities, they're going to have the right football people going there, but those early investors might just chuck some money at it, whereas the dedicated players bought their own mega cities. So we'll have to see how that plays out.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, well, literally, it's like every kind of part of F2 at the moment, isn't it? It could be amazing. It could be something that gets left behind. It could be something that peaks. Well, we're literally, all of us are just speculating on what we think they'll do. But my thinking behind it was, I like the area, and I like the idea of building out one big area instead of being here, there, and everywhere. It was just how I wanted to play the game, and I thought it would be nice to have others around us. So I turned that into a mega city idea. It's just how I enjoy playing F2.
Amazing. Yeah, I think it's great. And that's what it's about anyway. If you enjoy it, then I normally find with these things, if you enjoy it, other people enjoy it, and you'll end up doing quite well out of it.
Yeah, my fingers crossed. Yeah, I want that F2 mega city index that we're up to as well. I really wouldn't mind seeing what, because we've all came up with definitions of what mega cities are, and we've decided for ourselves, but there hasn't been any official information released on what Earth 2 consider a mega city. So half the mega cities that exist now might not even be considered a mega city by Earth 2.
It's amazing. I've got 50% of my portfolio in mega cities and 50% in prime location, nothing in between. So that's how I've done it. A couple of big islands as well. As we all want our own island.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think you will probably get a lot of people going for the private islands and stuff. I saw Meta grabbing a private island EPL or something similar. It was private island or something like that. But there was a few people battling over them, and somebody got the one he wanted. But anyway, I'll move on to the next question rather than going off on a huge tangent. This one is from Tipsy Sound, and they are asking, what is the feedback or atmosphere from the Web3 and Metaverse industry about Earth? You've actually pretty much already answered this one.
Unfortunately, no one knows about it yet, but I can stay in it. That's the opportunity. If anybody's listening, that's the opportunity. The fact that they don't know is not a negative thing. It's a very, very positive thing. It means it's so early that when they do know about it, they're all going to jump in and invest in it. So we've got that second wave coming soon of those Web3 people jumping in.
There we go. Yeah. Next we have Sherpa, and they are asking, do you think Earth 2 might one day partner up, you've actually covered this one as well, might one day partner up with big tech companies like Apple or Snap in the future to integrate their technology?
So yes, look, the big tech companies, I don't think it's a shame will sell this, but they would buy Earth 2 in an instant. If they can't buy them, they're going to partner with them. And you see it all over the place, big collaborations between big companies. That's how all big companies work. So yeah, I see everybody collaborating with Earth 2 and the metaverse, especially if it becomes the dominant metaverse.
I would hate to see F2 sold. I just don't think. I think for us players, the investment potential that we've got now with Shane as the owner director is completely different to what our potential and opportunity would be if we had something like Facebook or Google or Twitter or something own that. I think it would just be about their profits and their concerns rather than about the potential for the players and stuff as well. I think we would lose out a lot.
I don't see why he would need to sell it. He
Yeah.
doesn't. He has money. He doesn't. There's no reason for that. So let's see.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That my only concern about Shane potentially doing that is if he kind of gets burnt out from how much time and effort he's had to put into E2. But I kind of, if he does ever get to the point of that and he does ever want to leave, I hope he'll just put the kind of something in place where it always stays with the player and stuff like that, or there's kind of a team of directors that step in for him and include him or something, rather than it just being sold on.
You can run a company without, you can own a company without running it, you know, quite easily. So hopefully, from what I've heard from him, he's dedicated. He wants to leave a legacy. He wants to create something world changing, and I think that's a big incentive for him than to sell out and become rich.
Yeah, that's why I'm always, if you see Shane when he's tired on Twitter and stuff, I'm always encouraging him to take some time off and go enjoy time with his family and stuff. And I know exactly what it's like. I worked in the games industry for years, for like a decade. I worked in the games industry, and I got burnt out from it. I used to work about 70 hours a week, and that's probably a drop in the water compared to what Shane's working. And I ended up hating it. I ended up not enjoying what I was doing, and I literally just kind of have flashbacks to what it was like then, and thinking, well, hoping that Shane doesn't end up the same.
I think he's got through the worst of the burnout period, and now it's going to get easier as it builds and he builds his team. He's gone through the hardest part, so hopefully that won't happen.
Yeah, and the negativity seems to have eased off a bit. I wouldn't say it's gone, but it has eased off a bit as well. So hopefully that's took a bit of pressure off. Yeah. Right. Next up, we have how likely is it? Oh, we've just done that one actually. Next up, we're on to Kelvin Gui, and he is asking, how concerned do you think Shane will be about the price of Essence within 3 to 6 month span?
So he's going to tell you that he's not concerned, but I can tell you that he will be concerned, and there's a few reasons why.
Okay.
And there's a big thing. There's a big thing here that you've got to realize. All of his staff who work here, who are working on this project. So remember, Earth 2 isn't Shane. Earth 2 is a lot of people working together. They all have Essence, or they've been given Essence within this system. They are working towards a high Essence price. Otherwise, they wouldn't be incentivized to be doing this. Yeah. So he's given ownership of Essence to lots of people within his team and partners and external contractors and whatnot. I can't remember the chap's name. Omar, is it?
Omar Rahim.
All of these type of people that are advising him, they will be paid in Essence. They will be contracted in Essence. If Essence is a terrible price when it launches, how demotivational would that be for his team that have just worked solidly for 2 years, and then they realize that Essence price is worth a fraction of a cent and it's worth 50 quid, you know, or $50 or something. They'll be completely, you know, completely distraught. They might leave. They might think this project's useless. So the Essence price is very, very, very important. It's really important for the motivation of his team and his project. And if it flops, you know, it's going to be quite demotivating for people working there, I imagine. So you're gonna play it down and say, look, it doesn't matter. You're not bothered about that. We're not focused. That's what we all say. But I think secretly he'll be really wanting those players and those people knowing him as a person speaking to him. He will want the reward to come to his staff and to the people in the game and everybody that's, you know, waiting for this drop. If he didn't care about the price, he would have launched it already.
I completely agree with that. That's a good point, actually. Yeah, I never even considered the motivation of the price for the team and stuff as well. But now that you're mentioning the motivation and people might leave if it doesn't do well and stuff, you've kind of got the counter argument of what if all of these staff are suddenly multi-millionaires as well and finally suddenly have no reason to work and stuff. So I remember the percentage of the Essence allowance was massive for the staff at first. But I remember Shane just said weeks ago that they have reduced that down. So yeah, that was one of my initial concerns from the draft paper. What if all the staff end up leaving just because they're rich as hell?
I believe it's locked in for 5 years or something. So
It's only
it'll be
3 years or something though, vested over 3 years. It's not a very, very long period of time.
So, it's like shares, if you own shares in a company, you're first person in Google. I think at that point, you're not motivated by money anymore. You're motivated by something different and working on the project. But people will leave, at that point, they'll be rich and they probably will set up their own things. That's natural in startup. And you look at some of the big companies like Amazon and that, some of the original founders are still there. They're billionaires, but they're still there. Why are they still there? Because they're trying to increase the price of their shares, or in this case, Essence. So, and also they love what they do. That's their purpose. They're bought into it. So I think, success breeds success. Hopefully, the Essence will go up, and these things do go up and down. I'm not going to mention who. I've seen a few Web3 projects that have gone down a lot recently by dramatic, and they've lost a lot of people, lost a lot of motivation. It's difficult to keep that up, keep building when everything's not going well.
No, it's a good point. The point I just made might actually be kind of self-cancel anyway, because kind of to get the high prices where that would be an issue, Earth 2 would have to become massive, and if Earth 2 becomes massive, the team size will probably grow astronomically anyway. So even if people do leave, that'll be kind of taken up by the extra members, plus the distribution of Essence will be diluted by more team members then anyway.
That's how it works. These companies use their coins for everything, and if the coin value is low, it's very hard to build something as well as you want to. You have to wait until the price goes up again. Unless you take it out into fiat, which a lot of them do. They normally take a 2-year runway out in fiat, and then the rest of it they keep in their coin and the value of their coin. I don't want to tank the price, so they'll try not to take too much out as well. So a lot relies on Essence, believe it or not. It's not just about the players, it's also about the team, the staff, the whole mentality of they're doing a good thing. If it flops, it might not be great news for them. I'm sure they still survive and still do things, and then there'll be a next wave where it goes well. But your initial one, you need it to do well. It's the launch. If it doesn't do well, then God, that's not a good sign. We want it to do well at the start.
No, you made a very good point. I completely agree with everything you're saying there. Right, let's move on. We are up to a second one from Kelvin, actually, and he is saying, well, we've actually just pretty much covered this, actually. What do you think will be the impact of high-low price of Essence to Earth 2 and Shane's plans? I think we've pretty much just covered that and what we've been seeing anyway. So we will move on to Lord's Warrior, and they are asking any guesses on Essence price during launch, and where do you see it in the near future? Not financial advice, not financial advisor, pure speculation and all that nonsense.
I have no idea what the price of Essence will be, but I would definitely expect it to be over $1 from my own personal perspective. I'd be disappointed if it was less than $1. A lot of people said it wouldn't be. It would be, you're living in dreamland. But when you actually look at the players, like you said, most players, you've been in this game for quite a while. You've been heavily invested in it. You've got 15,000, right? So those people that are just coming in now, they're going to have a lot less. So I think that, I've got a feeling that Essence will be a high price, and especially as there's no ICO or anything, it's just player owned. Are you going to sell your Essence? That's a question. Are you going to sell yours? Would you if it was $1 each, would you take $5,000 out or something?
If I could take out enough to pay off my van debt that I've got, I would probably do that. But I won't have enough sitting there to build up Shun City as well. So it depends on what Essence value it hits. That's how much I would take out.
So if you needed Essence to build all your lands, to build your future Shun City and that, you're going to keep it in, right? And you need to buy resources. So I don't think many people will sell Essence. I think they'll give us as many reasons as possible not to sell your Essence, because it'll be essential. You might as well sell everything than sell your Essence. So I think the price of Essence will be really high because of that. I don't think they'll make it desirable for you to sell Essence before it launches. I bet you that it'll be very hard decision. And another thing is like, I played these other games previously. The more stuff you invest, the more Essence you make. So like, say if you did build a casino with all your Essence, and then that casino made millions and millions of Essence, like, you know, the compound interest from that that initial investment from the Essence could become a lot bigger opportunity than what you've got at the moment. So I think a lot of people will be thinking that. They'll be thinking, I don't want to sell my Essence. I want to build a farm to be able to build resources to sell for more Essence or whatever it might be.
Yeah, but it's not even just the building process as well. I think what is going to use up a massive amount of Essence for certainly myself and other players is the upgrading from T2 to T1 as well. That's literally like 90% of my, even Tune City is tier 2. And I will be upgrading every single one of those plots with Essence, no matter what the dollar value of Essence is, because I want the benefits of the tier 1.
Me as a crypto holder, I would take my $8,000 that I've got and put it into Essence straight away as soon as it comes out. And I think most people in the community, if there is 500,000 players, you can imagine how many people will be transferring their crypto in to get more of it quickly, cheap, before it goes up. I think there's going to be a huge hype around it. I think it's going to be a huge launch, and I think there'll be, I don't think people can get their head around how big Essence might actually become. I might be wrong, it might be a total flop, but I personally think with the utility, the amount of players we've got, the amount of, it could be one of the biggest launches in crypto history. It could be just phenomenal.
And they've definitely got the right kind of backing behind it as well. I mean, Herein, was he a director of Binance? It was something similar to that he was as well. You literally can't kind of go any more top tier than that when it comes to an advisor for your crypto.
We'll see. I'm super excited about it. It's the first time I've been in something early like this. So super excited, but we'll see. Maybe it won't, maybe it will flop. And I've seen a lot of projects where they've launched their coin and it has totally flopped and tanked, you know, so it's very possible. I just feel that Earth2's got enough utility to carry it forward and enough players and enough interest that if they provide that, I think, they could do really well.
Yeah, I'd agree. Right. Second question from Lord's Warrior, and he's saying, you're part of a large tech community and powerhouses running major Web3 and Metaverse projects. How does Earth2 stand out from all of them? I would love to hear something on this.
So we've compared this many a times. I think Earth2 is more in its infancy. It's like Shane, I think, said it in one of the podcasts, and mine one maybe, like, it's version, like Decentraland's version 1 of the Metaverse, and we're now on to version 2, version 3, and Earth2 is going to be, it's been being built for a lot of extra time. There's going to be more capability, more players, more things. So I just think it's the next generation of Metaverse Earth2. I think it's going to be a different type of Metaverse compared to what we've seen so far. And it will stand out. They've spent a lot more time building it and a lot more time launching it. They've got a lot more money. There's so many things going for it that, you know, you can't put it all in. And I'll just love to see what's going on behind the scenes right now, because I can only imagine what they're building.
I would absolutely love to be a fly on the wall there. If somebody's not already making a behind the scenes documentary, somebody really needs to get in there and start doing that. The creation of Earth2 and the Metaverse and stuff would be a fantastic watch. I would be all in on watching that. Right, next we're moving on to Mr. Green, and he is asking, where do you see Earth2 in 5 years?
Earth2 in 5 years will be a game that everybody plays. I think it'll be more like Fortnite, personally. I think it'll be lots of different people, a different type of player, maybe people that are, as I said, a lot of developing countries going onto it, a lot of people going on there to do a job or earn a living, lots of people going on there as investments, lots of people going on to play games, lots of people going on there to interact with friends and groups and circles and social circles. It's going to be huge. In 5 years' time, I imagine it's either going to be the next big thing in tech, or it's not going to exist. That's what my perspective probably is. They've got such big plans and such a big world to fill up. It's either going to be all or nothing with them, I think.
No, I'd agree with that. Yeah, I think kind of we get told a lot of the times by the anti-Earth2 YouTubers like that we're all adamant and blind that Earth2 is going to be this huge success and stuff. But I think the majority of us were aware that we're in something that is a potential gamble. We're not 100% convinced that it is going to be a success. It's just a gamble that is something that we're happy to take. It's something that we think is cool and we'll ride it.
Agreed. Yeah. Who knows where it will go, and I think we're all willing to lose, our money if it turns out to be a thing. But it was exciting to be part of the journey anyway. I enjoyed this. Enjoyed it. Exactly. It's worth my couple of grand I put in. Yeah,
I would completely agree with that. Even just the community and the guys that I've met has been worth the money that I've put in Earth2. It's been a fantastic journey so far. Right, this is another question from Mr. Green, and he is asking, where do you see the Metaverse industry in 10 years? And do you think the technology to run a VR world like E2 And what do you think the technology to run a VR world like E2 wants to do? Will it be available in 10 years?
10 years is such a long time. So if you look back, I believe bit longer than 10 years, Facebook started. And look how social media has progressed since then. I was on MySpace before that. So 10 years, I think technology, and if you look at the way technology increases exponentially, I think 10 years is going to be the equivalent to, 30 years in the last decade, if that makes sense. So of production and innovation. So I think in 10 years, anything's possible. I mean, we could be walking around with glasses and, I think even in the next few years, things are going to move on massively. So yeah, I have no idea where we'll be in 10 years, but if I look back on 10 years of my life of what was available 10 years ago, technologically wise, it's insane, the changes that have happened since then. So can only imagine what the metaverse will look like.
Yeah, I definitely think the next kind of 10 years is going to be the decade of the metaverse and Web3. Even if it doesn't become as mainstream as what the internet is now, there's definitely going to be huge developments and advances there.
It might be the metaverse. I've always got this theory that the metaverse is already existing. It's not something that's happening. So like I said, the Peloton, you're doing virtual classes with people virtually and running together. There's just so many applications that you use these days where you're already together and you're already talking. So I think it's this whole metaverse and Web3 thing is just going to merge into normal technology, and it's all going to become the same thing. So I don't think we'll even be talking about metaverses. I don't think the word metaverse might even exist in 10 years. It might be like some weird word that, people will be like, oh, remember when we used to call it the metaverse? And I think that, more realistically, it might be, let's go to Earth 2, and that will just be a thing. It might not be a metaverse. It might be a game. It might be a social media platform. It could be anything at that point. So things are going to really develop and change.
That's a very good point, actually. No, I completely agree with that. So it'll just be kind of like a seamless lifestyle change rather than this big thing that suddenly hits everyone.
Yeah, I think it's going to be gradual. And it's one of those things that somebody said this to me recently in an event. They said, like, imagine, I think it was several years ago when Uber started, and said, imagine if I told my mum, I click a button, a stranger picks me up in a cab, then he's going to take me somewhere. She said, no, you're going to get attacked.
Yeah.
You're going to get in trouble. How, now if you said, I'm getting an Uber home, your mum said, oh, that's safe, good, better that you're not walking. Things change so quickly and people are change averse. And if you were to say, some of these things that have happened in the last 7 years to somebody 10 years ago, they would have said, that's insane. Don't do that. That's dangerous. So I think with the metaverse and all these things, it's going to creep in slowly and everyone will be part of it and they won't even know it. It will happen over, quickly. And I say quickly, it will happen at a rapid pace, but over many years and integrate into what we already do.
I like what you're saying about that. Like, even it's not even just the technology that's going to change, it's people's perceptions of the technology and stuff as well. Yeah, it's a very good point. Yeah, very valid one. Right, this is one of my favorite questions in it, actually, and it's again from Mr. Green, and he is asking, what do you think the fashion industry's role will be in virtual worlds?
It's already massive, and I speak to people regularly in the fashion world. So I've got Tech Circus, where, as I said, we do a lot of Web 2 stuff, and traditionally we ran Web 2 stuff. So we're connected with everybody in the Web 2 world. And when we started the Metaverse stuff, the reason why we became successful at it and the Web 3 stuff is because we were like the bridge between the two. So a lot of people in Web 3 come to me and say, Luke, can you introduce me to Advertise? Can you introduce me to, these bigger brands? So everybody that I know in the Web 2 world, in the normal tech world, and I speak to them on a regular basis, they've got huge teams at the moment working on Metaverse stuff. The global head of design at Adidas, I spoke to him recently, every single thing that they're doing is Metaverse. They're not telling anyone about it. They're not allowed to speak at conferences about it. They're not allowed to disclose what they're doing, but they're all working on digital fashion. And you've already seen it in games where you can buy skins. In the and I think games and metaverse are going to be the same thing as well. I think it's all going to be merged into one. So people will be buying virtual NFT style goodies and within their metaverse to have a status, and that status is no different from the physical world. But it might be that you're wearing, I don't know, an Armani, suit or something in the metaverse, and people can recognize that. So I think the fashion world will absolutely go crazy about this stuff. It already is. It's happening everywhere. Farfetch has done a deal with Boson Protocol recently. It went under the radar. People might not know about this. They're a luxury fashion brand that a lot of people use.
Okay.
And they've done a deal to enter the metaverse through Boson. And Boson at the moment are the kind of protocol that people use to sell within metaverses. So they're creating, it's like a Shopify type thing. You know, you can link it to your metaverse thing and then sell for it. So it's going to be really interesting. And there's another thing that's called they're called fidgicals, I think, or fidgetals. But what they are is basically NFTs that you can transform into goods. So you get a card and it says, look, I owe you a jumper pretty much, or you got this jumper, and then you buy it, you wear it in the metaverse, you can then exchange it, and then it will send you a jumper in the post as well.
Oh, brilliant.
So,
awesome.
really interesting stuff going on in the NFT world that incorporates fashion. I think it'd be better to go on eBay and buy something as a present for somebody as a NFT, and then get it to send it to them later if they decide that they want that present, or they can exchange it online. So I think there's a lot of stuff going on in digital fashion. I think it's going to be huge industry. I think it will having a digital presence and an in-person presence are going to be equally as important. And I think the fashion world will have equally invested amounts of money in both worlds.
Yeah, I think a huge thing for that as well could be, there's a special term for it, and I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but when you've got one NFT that you can use across multiple metaverses or multiple platforms and stuff like that, I think that could be a huge turning factor for clothes and brands and stuff as well.
It's called interoperability. And
that's the one.
So you know, when there's something called the Metaverse Alliance that's happening at the moment. So there's a load of metaverses that are coming together: Upland, Sandbox, Alien Worlds, 3 of them. And they introduced this and announced it at our conference recently. And it's interoperability between the metaverses. So, you know, it almost becomes like the World Wide Web, where, you know, Google, you can search things, you can work in between each other, you can buy products and ship them in, you can transfer currencies, you know, all becomes like one. So you have different metaverses, but they all become interlinked on their platforms and how they buy and sell, and their customers can use their same avatar in different metaverses, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the interoperability of metaverses means that digital fashion, if you buy like a digital jacket, you can wear it in Earth 2, Sandbox, Upland, or wherever you want to wear it. And that's where it's going. And that's why protocols like Boson Protocol exist. You know, a shop can have plugins to every metaverse and then sell their products through every metaverse, not just through one.
To bring those universal standards into place. Because I genuinely think that is the factor that would have me buying more things, because it would be, I think of it as if I'm going to go to a nightclub and that nightclub says, oh, you can't wear that shirt because you haven't bought it from here. That is a ridiculous thing for me. And I think of the metaverse in the same way. If I'm buying that asset, I want to be able to go into this bit or that bit and be able to wear that one same asset. So the thing that would get me spending proper money on brands would be being able to use them across the multiple platforms.
So one of the things that they call it the open metaverse. That's what the term is, with interoperability between them all. And if you look at financial systems at the moment, they have something called open banking. And open banking means that financial products can share your data in between each other. So it's the same with the open metaverse. They could share your data between each other. And therefore you could go, say if you're on Monzo or Starlin, you can go and get a loan with another company through that app because of it's already sharing your data. That's what open banking is. So open metaverse would be the same. You know, you could buy your NFT here and then you could use it here, or because they're sharing the data between everybody. And that's where the future of all the metaverses will lie. And I think that's what will happen, is that all these metaverses come out. Who's going to be the dominant one? Maybe Earth 2, but there'll be hundreds of metaverses, maybe thousands of them. And the metaverse will become like the internet. It will be a bunch of them linked together through various different interoperable can't get that out of my mouth now, and links in the open metaverse and sharing data.
Yeah, well, I can't wait for that year to come. Hopefully it's not too far away, because it'll be fantastic when it does. Last question from Mr. Green, not the last question, but the last question from Mr. Green. He has asked, well, he is saying, knowing how everything has gone for the last couple of years with Earth 2, if you found out about Earth 2 today and knew all that, would you still invest in it early, or wait to see what the more completed game looks like before joining?
If I knew where we were today, obviously I would invest so much more. I would have got crazy of America, and I'd be a millionaire right now. But to take that into a non-financial equation and just talk about the gaming aspects of it, I think they've done really well where they are at the moment. There was loads of things that happened at Earth 2 in Earth 2 that I predicted and I knew could happen from playing with other metaverses and other games. So what I'd do, because I ran the conferences, I'd go on to different metaverses and walk around them. I wouldn't maybe not invest in them, but I'd go and play the games in Decentraland. And then I went into a lot of the blockchain games on Wax and started investing in them and playing with them. And things like crafting, it's been around for ages, like crafting and mixing NFTs together to craft something to make another NFT that gives you more things. That's been our planet. We're doing that for ages. Alien World's been doing that for ages. So a lot of the best stuff that you see in Earth 2, it isn't original stuff. It's stuff that people have been doing for the last 5 years.
May have been in kind of old game mechanics, yeah.
Yeah, all the game mechanics, yeah. So I think that, what I like about Earth 2 is every time I think that they might do something, they actually do it. And they're more clued up than people give them credit for. They know what they're doing. And so I'm very confident about the future, but I was already very confident in the past that would happen. And I'm just glad that those predictions are starting to come through. They're green shoots. Obviously, there's a lot more to go. I mean, there's so many hurdles to overcome still. But, and, I listen to the scam tubers or the YouTubers, E2 tubers, whatever you want to call them. And they got brilliant, valid questions about the project. It's only if you really dig deep that you can find the answers to some of these things. And if you look at it from a circus value, honestly, it does look a bit scammy at times. But those that have done a lot of research, really looked into it, spoke to people and thought about it. There's, like you said, there's a 50-50 chance that this might be a good thing in the future, that we might end up having a good product at the end of it. And a good game to play. So we'll see how it goes. But I feel like, those that did a lot of research and heavily looked into this end up doing quite well from it in the future.
It's a good point. There is absolutely tons of information there, but it's not presented in a very accessible way at the moment. It's really not.
Not because Shane didn't want any more people to join his metaverse because it was just too hard to handle. It was too hot. And now he's building up everything so that it can get hot again. And when it blows up again, and then there's the next wave of people coming in, it will be great. But I've never heard of a startup, especially in Web3, and I speak to them all, that they're all trying their hardest to get more people to come to their metaverse. I've never heard of anyone saying, don't come to the metaverse. Stop coming to our metaverse. We're too busy. We've got too many people. We need to build something. So that's why I'm really excited about Earth 2.
I get that. I mean, I'm guessing Shane kind of envisioned this point of where there was going to be a kind of a dead zone where they had to just concentrate on development, and he knew that players might get frustrated and stuff. So I can understand him not wanting those players in yet when he can get them in later, when they've got the foundations in place and they can just snowball loads of different things out, and they've got the gameplay there and they can keep adding on to it and stuff. And those players who, if they've got in earlier than that point, they might have already got bored from Earth 2 and not came back. But if they come after the gameplay is there, they're going to be in it and continue to grow with the game. So I get what he wants to.
Be the game players, they're all going to come in later, and those people that do the YouTube channels can really evaluate whether it's a good game at that point once they create a game. But someone gave me a good analogy. They said, it already is a game. We're flipping tiles, we're already playing around things. It's like saying poker's not a game, because you're just playing with a few cards. Flipping properties, and it's a game. It's fun. And that's why there's 5,000 people logging on to do it. And you can say whatever you want. You can say it's a shit game, it's terrible. Well, the data says differently. It's one of the most invested startups in history. There's more people going onto it than there ever has been. The community is more active than any community I've seen on Web3. You can say whatever you want. It's inflated value thing. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, there's a bunch of people there that love this, and there's a lot of people out there that disagree, and there's a lot of people that hate it, and that's fine. But I think that in general, you just got to look at how engaged people are, and if there wasn't a product there and it was a scam and it was crap, why are they all there? Why are they there every day? What's entertaining them so much? Are they all just stupid? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think there's a lot of smart people in there that involved in the Web3 circles that understand things. There's a lot of people who are gamers, like people that develop games like yourself, you say or works in the gaming industry rather.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of smart people out there, and I think that the difference is that the people there are willing to take a gamble. They like the vision. They're interested in the future.
Yeah, the audience that we've got as well. I can break it down just from my YouTube audience because I get exact stats on that. We've got literally people that are like 30 to 50, and they're like all educated men in kind of affluent countries and stuff as well. So with a dream target audience for any product as well, because of the people with money to spend.
People there, and I agree with the scam tubers. There's so many holes in the product. Is it going to be a game? I think what they're not really understanding is that it's not that type of game at the moment. It's not supposed to be World of Warcraft. It's a fun trading game at the moment. It's more a strategy type of thing, and just look at what it is. Buying and selling tiles. It's a trading game at the moment, and that's why people have enjoyed it. And I think in the future, when it does become a more kind of active shooting game, and there's other types of games and driving and racing games and all the other stuff that people say might be plugged into it. I'm not. I don't know if that will actually happen, but if it does happen, then judge it on that.
I definitely think it's going to happen. I think drone is basically going to be used for the showcase of how games can link into Earth 2, and I think we'll have kind of cross use cases of resources and essence and jewels and stuff like that that'll be used in the games. It'll kind of use the whole look. I think of the main Earth 2 platform and the eco sim is the resources that'll be needed for all of the other things that will link into Earth 2, if that makes sense. I
totally agree with you, and I think that's exactly what it will be. It's a platform. There's one thing that I did cut this out of the interview with Shane. Shane is a gamer. He is not a financially motivated person. He's a gamer through and through. All he cares about is making a good game. And I can guarantee you his ambitions are to make a game, not a bank or something. I think those parts of it are interesting, but I think he's much more in it for the game. I almost worry a bit about that, if I'm honest. I almost worry that it's going to become too gamey, because if it could become very gamified. But the fact that Shane is an ex-professional game player gives you an idea of why he's behind this.
I think even if Shane is kind of a bit too into the gamey side, I think the team around him is going to kind of balance him out well. I mean, as we're saying, he's got ex-Binance there, and even I know the Shane's partner in it is a silent partner. He doesn't get involved with the day-to-day stuff, but he's definitely from a kind of financial side. He was some property mogul with hotels or something, wasn't he? So he'll definitely kind of ground Shane in that element. But like with the amount of advice and stuff that he's bringing on, I think he'll definitely get balanced well with that. I don't think he'll get too carried away with it.
Yeah, we'll see how it all goes. The game inside of it, for me, it already is a game. I'm already enjoying playing it, and the more trading and the more stuff that goes on, I think it's really interesting. It's probably the most interesting game I've ever played. And I do play games myself. I do have PlayStation 5. I do play Red Dead Redemption. I do sit there playing games in the evening. It's a part of my hobbies, like most people on Earth 2 do. We're not just people here for the money at all. I'm probably the polar opposite to that. So I think that, they got points. And I think what's really good about those people is they validate everything and they push the standards. They keep Shane to those standards that, he can't walk away. And I think actually they're a really positive thing. A lot of people see them as negative. I think it's great to have people validating and questioning what you're doing all the time. So, I just think sometimes the stuff that they talk about hasn't had enough research into it to understand it fully.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of what I was just about to get on it. I completely agree with some of the points that they make, but I am completely aware that some of them have misinterpreted information as well, because there is some of them that have came in at Discord, we've had conversations with, we've explained stuff to them. So even though the information might be hard access for the average player, there is some of them that have literally been talked through it and talked to us about it and stuff, and then gone on to make videos of where they've represented the information that they've been told and stuff as well, or they've twisted it to their narrative. I think a lot of them have just, they've saw how high the CPMs are for Earth 2 related content on YouTube. They've got channels that critique things and they've saw how well those videos do, so they continue to do it. I mean, a lot of the concerns that they add are definitely valid concerns, but they definitely go to the extremes of it and add on extra things that aren't needed, just to give their audience the kind of the shock factor and continue in their narrative of this is a scam or this is not going to work and stuff. So yeah, there's a valid point to it, but there's extremes of it as well.
There is. You need people to validate the product. You need to have people out there giving more publicity to the project anyway. And at the end of the day, if it is a success, then, you know, they will have to turn around and say they were wrong, or they will have to be quiet. And if it isn't a success, they can claim battery and say that they were right. And it'd be interesting to see how it goes.
I don't think we'll ever get that. I think we'll just change their narrative to, we were only ever trying to get this the game that it should have been. We were just trying to help you guys. And then even if they do eventually start doing positive content, they'll just claim that they were only trying to help. And it's only us very early Earth 2 people that'll ever remember exactly what they were saying in the first days, because their old videos in a few years' time probably won't even get watched in regards to Earth 2. It'll only be the new content.
Yeah, I have no bad feelings about anybody. I think it's all good. And, you know, as long as you don't get too emotional about it all and take it as value, as entertainment. I've really enjoyed watching some of those videos as much as, you know, I've seen some updates from Earth 2. So yeah, you know, I think they want to create drama. They want to do that. It gets views and that's fair enough. So but it's entertaining. It kept my eyes on Earth 2 the whole way through, to be honest. So it's all good.
No, that's fair enough. Right, this is literally the last question that we have now as well. You're ringing. You okay?
Yeah, I'll have to probably cut off after this, actually.
No, that's literally the last question anyway. Last question is from E2 Economist, and it's actually one that we've pretty much went over anyway. How do you see F2's place in the metaverse space? The one to rule them all, or just another metaverse? I think we've pretty much already covered that anyway.
Could you repeat that just very quickly?
How do you see Earth 2's place in the metaverse space? The one to rule them all, or just another metaverse?
Yeah, same question. I think we've answered it a few times. Yeah. There's going to be interoperability between all the metaverses. They will all coexist. I think that Earth 2 will probably be one of the dominant ones, if not the dominant one. I think Meta's the other one to watch out for, believe it or not. Although it's not player owned, I think Facebook invested a lot of time and money into that, and I think it will do quite well with the general mass population. I think Earth 2 will be one of the top ones there.
That's a good point. I completely agree with Facebook as well. That, as you see it, the biggest hurdle is getting the user base, and Meta, Facebook have already got that user base in place. Yeah.
Simple as that. If you're going to take anything away from this, it's about getting users, and Earth 2 has the most users. If you go to any product and any tech, you know, investor and say, look, we've got the best product, they will say, how many users do you have? Yeah. And if you've got no users, it doesn't matter.
Good point. Right, that is literally it though. That is all my questions, all the community questions. Is there anything that you would like to cover before we end this, Luke?
Nothing really. As I said, you know, I'm really positive about Earth 2. I still have reservations about it. Yeah. There's still things that I think, wait a minute, there's so many people in this game. How are we going to attract new users to it? And how are those people going to come onto our lands? And is that going to be a thing? I personally think that it won't. I think a lot of land will be farming land. Yeah. That's what will be used for, purely for those for those purposes. So you know, in general, I think Earth 2 has got a really good it's got a good history actually of like delivering of what it is actually, you know, said that they were going to do. And I think they turned out not to be a scam, which some of us in the community believe they could be for quite some time as well. I think that they're doing really well, and the future of Earth 2 is really positive. So looking forward to seeing how it plays out. And if it doesn't work out, all I can say is I've enjoyed the journey. I thought it's been a really interesting journey, and really cool to see a tech startup try.
Yeah, I completely share that sentiment. It's very well put. Yeah. Thank you very much for being my guest as well. It's been an absolute pleasure. As people can probably tell from how long this video will be when I finish editing it, I'm about to do it in 4 bloody sessions. So thank you very much for it. It's been great, and it's some awesome insight that you've had from the industry as well.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's been great speaking. Bye.
My pleasure. Right, thank you very much. I'll catch you later, mate. Thanks, guys, for watching. Peace out.
Bye-bye.